Chapter 254. Clouds of darkness gradually appeared on the horizon. I see it. Magnetic islands found. The lookout's voice spread throughout the Justice. It had been a week since the Justice, Little Bird, and Rapid Flow set sail from New Moon Harbor. During this time, they stopped at Bagan Harbor once and recruited more than 200 sailors to replenish their crew. The young Draconid pushed open the door of the captain's cabin and stood by the railing, looking into the distance. At the same time, Zongo on Little Bird and Ash on Rapid Flow raised their monoculars. The distance kept getting closer and closer, and the magnetic islands became clearer. This was a desolate land. There were pitch-black rocks everywhere, and there was almost no vegetation. The terrain on the island was steep and rugged, with strange peaks and hills, and the air was obviously much hotter than at sea. Various weapons, such as the cutlass, began to clang in the armory. The magnetic islands, as the name implied, constantly emitted a powerful magnetic force. Most metals were greatly affected. About 3,000 years ago, a giant golden ship was stranded here. The owner of the giant golden ship was a tycoon of the Elven race, and in terms of wealth, he was definitely one of the top 3 in the world. The tycoon gave out loan sharks and used force to oppress those who could not repay their debts. The 5th-generation pirate king was an Elven noble. At that time, his family owed a huge debt and was captured by the Elven tycoon as a slave. All the family's fixed assets were swallowed up by the tycoon. The young pirate king of the 5th generation escaped from his shackles with courage and luck. He wandered into the sea and became a pirate. When he became an adult, he stood out and became a pirate captain. He began to take revenge, constantly plundering the fleets of the Elven tycoon. The Elven tycoon was extremely extravagant. In order to satisfy his preferences, he built 7 cruise ships: silver, gold, agate, pearl, emerald, diamond, and crystal. Every cruise ship was comparable to the most luxurious noble manor and had all kinds of entertainment facilities. The 5th-generation pirate king continued to rob the tycoon, relying on his enemies to become rich, and his power grew stronger. The tycoon retaliated, but the 5th generation was cunning and shrewd and set up a scheme. One of them, the 5th generation, faked defeat and fled to the magnetic islands. The golden cruise ship that was chasing him was affected by the magnetic force, and its combat power dropped sharply. The 5th generation seized the opportunity and launched a fierce attack, sinking the golden cruise ship in the magnetic islands. The most basic building material for a golden cruise ship was gold. Although the 5th generation pirate king had sunk the ship, he did not have time to salvage the golden ship because of the fleet that came later. When he returned, the golden ship had already disappeared. People speculated that this giant ship, which was almost entirely made of gold, had been sucked into the depths of the magnetic stone islands due to the magnetic force. Therefore, there was a constant stream of people rushing here in an attempt to search for the golden ship. However, until now, no one had heard of anyone discovering this huge treasure. More than 1,000 years had passed since the sinking of the golden ship. The magnetic islands had become a battlefield of life and death for the 2 legendary masters. One of them was a fallen drool from the barbarian tribe, Liao Yi. The other was from the beast race, the high priest of the beast race at that time, Hal Mulberry. The 2 of them were close in strength, and both of them eventually died here. According to rumors, the 2 of them had left behind their respective inheritances here. Before they died, they agreed to use their inheritances to create outstanding juniors and let them fight among themselves to determine the true victor. After this battle, the magnetic stone islands once again became a popular scenic spot. Every year, extraordinaires who hoped to obtain the legendary inheritance would appear. This was information about the 2 most valuable treasures in the magnetic stone islands. In addition, there was also a lot of other information. The value of the treasures involved was uneven. The Draconid youth had exchanged some of the information about the treasures at New Moon Harbor this time. The 3 ships gradually approached the magnetic stone islands. There was still some distance to the coast, and the 3 pirate ships stopped moving forward. Although the main material of the pirate ship was wood, There were also metal nails and other things. If they got too close, it would cause damage. This is the last time I'm checking your equipment. Don't bring any metal items. The Draconid youth and the others boarded the landing boat. On the boat were Gray, Song-Su, Big Man, Flute, Sandow, Lanzeo, Little Bird, and others. Zhong-Gu stayed behind to preside over the overall situation. The landing boat quickly reached the shore, and the Justice Pirates officially set foot on this strange land. Stepping on the shiny black magnetic stones, everyone immediately felt a wave of heat coming from the soles of their feet. After staying on the coast for a while, everyone got used to it, and the team began to move deeper into the islands. At first, the journey was peaceful, but soon, everyone was welcomed. Bang! A black stone suddenly shot toward the crowd. Little Bird and Sandow, who were scouting ahead, quickly dodged. Then, with a series of bangs, a large number of black stones shot towards the crowd like cannonballs. Big Man raised his huge wooden shield and half-knelt in front of the Draconid captain, blocking 3 black stone cannonballs for him. "Don't panic," the Draconid youth shouted. "Old Joan." Song-Su immediately instilled magic power, tore open a magic scroll, and controlled it with his mind, forming a translucent light shield. The black stones smashed into the light shield and were all blocked. Although the light shield was thin, it only rippled and looked very sturdy. Seeing that the intruders were holding their ground, the natives of the magnetic stone islands popped their heads out. They were all humanoid, but they were all made of earth and stone, with different sizes. Earth Elemental, and the mutated form of the Earth Elemental. Magnetic Earth Elemental. The pirates exclaimed. The Earth Elemental was yellowish-brown, while the Magnetic Earth Elemental was black-gray. They had the ability to control earth and stone. They opened their palms, bent down, and dug out a piece of black stone. Then, with their heads held high and their chests out, they shook their arms and threw the stone over. The stone cannonballs had no effect, so the largest Earth Elemental began to cast magic. Earth-type spell, Earth Spike. However, the Earth Spike did not appear. Song-Su tore open another scroll and strengthened the ground under everyone's feet. But defense alone would not bring victory, so the old scholar shouted, "Attack!" The Draconid youth, Little Bird, and Gray had already rushed out of the protective shield. They all held alchemy crossbows in their hands. The next moment, the alchemy crossbows hit the Earth Elemental group, and there was a burst of thunder, water, and flames. The smoke and dust dispersed, and the first wave of probing attacks had a result. The Draconid youth realized that the powerful lightning alchemy crossbows had almost no effect, and the water and fire crossbows were also reduced by half. The youth was not surprised, as this was within his expectations. The Earth Elemental had outstanding defense, and was best at defending against lightning spells. The power of other spells would be reduced by almost half when they hit them. The defensive advantage of the Earth Elemental was not only reflected in its defense against spells, but also against hard attacks like swords and knives. The Draconid youth then charged into the group of enemies, waving his dragon claws and attacking everywhere. He was a silver warrior, but even killing black iron-level Earth Elemental was difficult. Often, he could only kill one black iron-level Earth Elemental after 10 claw attacks. The Earth Elemental itself could also cast some innate spells. Other than throwing stones and earth spikes, there was also the annoying slow spell. The Draconid youth was hit by the slow spell, and his movement speed and attack speed were both greatly reduced, so was his killing efficiency. The weak were strong. Although there were many Earth Elemental, the highest level was only black iron level, and there were only 3 of them. However, the group still spent half an hour to clear out these Earth Elemental groups. And this was on the basis of using a large number of alchemy crossbows. The battle ended, and no one was injured, but Little Bird, Gray, and the others were a little pale. "We can't go on like this, Dragon Captain." Yes, no wonder the Magnetic Islands are not a popular place to search for treasures. The Draconid youth nodded slightly, knowing that Little Bird and Gray were talking about the cost. Alchemy crossbows were expensive, and the cost of fighting this battle was too high, although there were also spoils of war. After the earth elemental was killed, there was a certain probability of condensing earth elemental essence from its corpse. This was a common casting material for earth-type spells and also a commonly used alchemy material, and the market price was low. Apart from the purity, the magnetic earth elemental would condense some magnets. The price of these magnets was slightly higher than the earth elemental essence, but it was also very limited. The cost and the benefits were not proportional at all. But the Draconid youth was resolute. Continue forward, don't be afraid of consumption. Alchemy crossbows are used for battle. Since the boss said so, Gray, Little Bird, and the others could only obey. After all, they were not the ones paying for the alchemy crossbows. After 3 battles, the exploration of the magnetic island that the group had chosen to land on was completed. The Draconid youth was about to take a small boat to the next island, but soon found that there was no need to do so. The magnetic island under his feet was closing in on the other one. Soon after, the 2 small islands collided with a bang, temporarily piecing together into a larger island. This was the uniqueness of the magnetic islands. These small islands were mobile, relying on magnetic forces to repel or attract each other. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to describe the terrain of the magnetic islands, because the terrain here was constantly changing. In a week's time, there would be earth-shaking changes in the terrain. The Justice Pirates set foot on new land and cleared 2 groups of earth elemental, harvesting some earth elemental essence and magnets of different sizes. This exploration continued until evening. Little Bird, who had been silently calculating the cost, had a heavy heart. The harvest was too meager, it was simply a loss. If it was a normal environment, the group could still use metal weapons to attack the earth elemental. Although the efficiency was relatively low, at least the cost was acceptable. But on the magnetic islands, it was difficult for fighters to use equipment, and their conventional attack power was greatly reduced. For the sake of efficiency, the cost of using alchemy crossbows was quite high. Little Bird, Gray, Loose Flute, and the others could not help but secretly admire the Draconid youth. The captain's expression never changed. "Sir, there's a discovery." When it was almost evening, the scouting pirates brought a different news. The exhausted group's eyes suddenly lit up. Chapter 255. We found a survivor ahead. Not long after, they arrived in front of the survivor. The survivor had already fainted. He was a skinny old man with deep wrinkles on his face. His eye sockets were sunken, and his cheekbones were high. His hair was sparse and white, like a candle flickering in the wind. He's a normal person. He's not injured, but he's in a bad state. I'm afraid he fainted from hunger. Since he wasn't an extraordinaire, everyone relaxed. However, Sang Soo remained suspicious. There aren't any ports or fishing villages near the magnetic islands. How did a normal person get here? This place isn't safe. Continue searching nearby. Next, let's wake this old man up. The Draconid youth ordered. Everyone carried healing potions with them. Chick went forward, opened the old man's mouth, and poured a small bottle of light red healing potion into his mouth. The old man's eyes were tightly shut, and he didn't wake up. I heard that some monks in the east of the empire cultivate a special kind of fighting aura and can control it to an extremely fine level. If we have this kind of fighting aura, we can help this old man quickly absorb the nutrients of the potion and wake up quickly. Chick said regretfully. The pirates could only wait. The gray fighting aura combined with his rat man bloodline would cause damage to a human's body. The Draconid youth's explosive fighting aura was explosive and delicate, and it was the weakest part of this fighting aura technique. In fact, even his White River fighting aura couldn't be used to such a fine level. As for Flute, he was a spellcaster. Like Sang Soo, they had to maintain their condition to deal with unexpected situations. Spells were much more flexible than fighting aura, and their application was much wider. "Sir, we found a boat. It should be a survivor's boat." Everyone rushed over and saw a damaged lifeboat. Most of the boat's body had disappeared, and only the bow was left. This old man is really lucky to be able to make it to the magnetic islands. He might be a survivor of a shipwreck. I think he's more unlucky. He escaped with great difficulty and landed on land, but it turned out to be the magnetic islands. When night fell and their temporary camp was just finished, a pirate reported to the Draconid youth that the old man had awakened. I was originally a fisherman at White Wing Harbor. The high taxes of the aristocrats were too heavy. I couldn't live on, so I boarded a pirate ship to beg for food. In the end, we encountered an even bigger group of pirates who defeated our fleet. I was near the lifeboat. Before the boat sank, I risked my life to climb onto it. Alas, how can I have time to bring food and water when I'm running for my life? After another storm, there were few sailors left in the skiff. Then we met a shark. I don't remember how I got ashore. All I remember is that I passed out from hunger on the boat. Thank you for saving my life, but The old man spread out his hands with a miserable expression. I'm afraid I can't repay you with anything. I didn't save you because I expected you to repay me. The Draconid youth shook his head. Haha, old man, consider yourself lucky to have met us righteous pirates. Chick laughed loudly. Righteous? Pirate group? The old man was puzzled. How could these two disparate words be paired together? What's the name of the pirate group you joined? Who attacked you? Song Su asked. The old man's answer surprised everyone. The pirate group he joined wasn't worth mentioning, but the pirate group that attacked him was Silverhook's group. Why are Silverhook's group here? Everyone looked at each other. A map of the Night Spirit Sea region appeared in everyone's mind at the same time. The latest news they received was that Silverhook's group had attacked the Empire's military supply ship. Although they didn't know the exact location of the robbery, the closest point of the route was still a long distance away from the Magnetic Islands. Aren't these people too daring? After robbing the Empire's military supply ship, they still dare to wander around outside. We didn't look for them, but they took the initiative to come over. What should we do? Is their goal also the Magnetic Islands? The higher-ups were a little surprised. Silverhook's group was stronger than the righteous pirates. It was unwise to have a dispute with them. The Draconid youth frowned. His real purpose for coming here wasn't to search for treasure in the Magnetic Islands, but to check if the Blue Charm God's temple was hidden here. The Blue Charm God's original body was a mermaid, so her temples were rarely built on land. Most of them were in the sea. Currently, this sea god was in a terrible state, and there weren't many temples left in various places. However, her main temple was still hidden, and there was no news of it being discovered or destroyed. It was almost certain that her main temple was at the bottom of the sea somewhere. The map that the Draconid youth obtained from the secret room at the bottom of the sea also proved this guess. A blasphemous priest with ulterior motives had also targeted the Blue Charm God. He had studied it for a long time and marked several major suspicious locations on the active sea map. He himself had already mixed into the Blue Charm believers and might have already reached the Blue Charm Temple. In order to replenish the fairy tale god's power, the Draconid youth had to find the Blue Charm Temple as soon as possible. They couldn't hitch a ride with the heretics, so they could only test it one by one. After everyone's research, the Magnetic Islands were the most suspicious locations worth exploring. Silverhook and his crew's target might not be the Magnetic Islands. Even if it is, they might not have any conflict with us. After all, the terrain of the Magnetic Islands was ever-changing and very complicated. Taking another step back, the Draconid youth imagined the worst-case scenario. They would fight with the Silverhook pirates. Even if we can't win, we can still escape. Thus, after a moment's thought, the Draconid captain gave the order to inform Zhonggu of this important information and ask him to be more vigilant. The exploration team continued to explore the islands, and in order to save time, they organized a small elite team to explore overnight. In one night, we should be able to determine if the Blue Charm God's main temple is hidden here. The Draconid youth was not confident in himself, but in the deep-sea monster fish and the fairy tale god. Although the deep-sea monster fish was an alchemy ship, it was made by an alchemy grandmaster, and its alchemy skills were superb. It could freely explore the seabed of the Magnetic Islands. With the fairy tale god as the core, the deep-sea monster fish had already set up a detection array. As long as they were close to the Blue Charm God's temple, the array would react. That night, the Draconid youth, Song Su, Big Guy, and the others continued to explore. Little Bird and Flute stayed behind to guard the temporary camp, and Gray returned to the pirate ship to help Zongo, mainly to prevent the threat of the Silverhook. Song Su took out the greedy god's finger. The greedy god's finger trembled as it was suspended by a rope. Following this direction, the elite team gradually left the temporary camp. Soon, they found a gathering place of earth elementals. This was the limitation of the greedy god's finger. The finger bone contained the divinity of greed, but like the fairy tale god, they could only use it roughly. The god's bone was too greedy and would point to anything of value. Earth elementals that contained the essence of earth elementals or magnets were naturally within its range. However, it could still be of great help to the exploration team. At least, they could save a lot of time and effort to find the earth elementals directly. Don't be in a hurry to exterminate them. Is there a way to lure one over? Let our little giant practice, the Draconid youth said. He was surrounded by his own people, so he had less to worry about. The people around him also knew the real purpose of this trip, and it would be best if they could rely on the greedy god's bone to find the treasure. It was normal that they could not find it. It was difficult to tell whether the news of the treasure was real or fake, and even if it was real, it had been buried for so long without being discovered, which showed how difficult it was. Although they had the greedy god's bone in their hands, and the receptionist had once praised it as a semi-divine weapon, it was still a divinity material in essence. The fourth pirate king was assassinated, and his divinity bones were scattered all over the world in the long history that followed. A divinity bone the size of finger was nothing. It was very likely that a long time ago, someone had used other parts of the greedy god's bone to come to the magnetic islands to search. Let me do it. Song Su personally cast a spell and successfully lured an earth elemental over. The earth elemental left the settlement and immediately attacked when it saw the group. Go. Remember the dodging moves I taught you. This is a very rare opportunity for actual combat. The Draconid youth encouraged the big guy. The big guy stepped forward nervously, and although he was bigger, his aura was obviously weaker than the earth elemental. The earth elemental was in human form, and although its defense was outstanding, its attack power was not strong, and its movements were slow. When the big guy fought with it, he took a few punches at first, but he gradually got used to it, and not only did he dodge more and more nimbly, but he could also parry occasionally. Speaking of which, the big guy almost had no chance to fight alone on Confusion Island. He has a good physique, and although he's an ordinary person, his physical fitness is comparable to a silver fighter. Training him well will be very helpful to us. Don't forget that he's crazy. Haha, we still have our captain. These words reminded them of the time on Confusion Island, and a smile appeared on everyone's face. At that time, the young knight was responsible for guarding the shipbuilding, and whenever the big guy had a relapse, the young knight would act in time and knock him out. As the young knight became more and more proficient, the big guy would often be knocked out without any warning, and he could not resist at all. This caused many people to sympathize with the big guy in the end. Actual combat allowed the big guy to improve rapidly, and the earth elemental was really a suitable opponent for him. With constant encouragement from his father, the big guy fought bravely. The earth elemental sensed that something was wrong and finally gave up on fighting alone and let out a roar, alarming the whole group. A large number of earth elemental rushed over. The young Draconid was about to act, but Song Su took the initiative to fight. Let me do it. Necromancy spell. After the spell was prepared, it was successfully cast. Translucent gray ripples spread to the front in waves. The earth elemental was hit by this spell, and their charging momentum suddenly stopped, their bodies swaying wildly. After about 10 breaths of time, their bodies collapsed and scattered into piles of rocks and soil. Everyone was shocked. The efficiency of necromancy was so high. Necromancy spells target living beings, because all living beings have souls. The earth elemental is no exception. Song Su explained simply. The enemy was more powerful than expected, and the earth elemental that was lucky enough to survive retreated. Chapter 256. Is this necromancy? The Draconid youth's pupils constricted as he watched the earth elemental scatter. Necromancers were so powerful and strange. It was no wonder that even though Tsang Su was only a dark iron mage, Zhongge was so wary of him. Chase after them. The Draconid youth quickly calmed himself down and shouted. The big guy howled and led the way. The earth elemental scattered. Because it was dark and there was a lot of blood, the earth elementals burrowed into the ground, and the big guy could not catch up. Tsang Su, the Draconid youth, turned around. The old scholar nodded and took out the divine bone of greed. The divine bone pointed shakily in a direction. The Draconid youth was surprised. Most of the earth elementals were fleeing in this direction, but the divine bone was pointing at a single earth elemental. Without hesitation, the Draconid youth immediately led the group to chase after the fallen earth elemental. This seemingly ordinary earth elemental, which didn't seem to have any abnormal behavior, suddenly revealed an unusual characteristic after being chased and attacked by everyone. Its movements were more agile than its companions, and it was full of spirituality. At the same time, its recovery and defense were much higher than others of the same level. The group could actually feel cunning from this earth elemental. But no matter what, this earth elemental was only bronze level. The Draconid youth left this special earth elemental for the big guy to deal with. The big guy was not an extraordinary yet, but he was still evenly matched with this earth elemental. Of course, it was mainly the big guy dodging and attacking the earth elemental. Whenever the earth elemental wanted to escape, the Draconid youth and Tsang Su would intervene and block it for the big guy. The earth elemental that was more agile than others of the same level put more pressure on the big guy. But it was also because of this that the big guy became more and more adept at dodging. This kind of combat training continued for a while, and Tsang Su's expression changed slightly. This half-giant hybrid is actually quite talented in combat. Tsang Su recognized. He could clearly feel that the big guy's improvement was huge and rapid. The Draconid youth was also delighted. He found the best way to train the big guy. The big guy was not intelligent, but his physical fitness was actually very high. In actual combat, as long as his eldest son was beaten or injured, his body would remember this lesson. The next time they encountered the same situation, they would have a different response than the last time. These measures were not the result of the big guy's thinking, but his body's instinct. Even if there were many times when physical instincts did not display ideal results, the Draconid youth believed that as long as there was enough actual combat training, the display of physical instincts would be constantly corrected, ultimately creating a combat technique and style that was most suitable for the battlefield and best suited for the big guy. The big guy was getting more and more excited. There were two reasons for his excitement. One was that the earth elementals were hitting him less and less, and the other was that the Draconid youth had been encouraging him and praising him. The earth elemental was getting more and more restless. It could already foresee its end. It couldn't understand why these enemies didn't chase after the main group, but chose to chase after it. Filled with despair and hatred, it abruptly abandoned the big guy and charged towards the Draconid youth who was clearly the leader. "Dad!" the big guy yelled. The earth elemental pounced at the Draconid youth, directly touching the big guy's reverse scale and infuriating the half-giant instantly. He threw away his previous dodging posture and charged violently at the earth elemental. The earth elemental had its back towards him, wanting to drag the Draconid youth down with it before it died. Unexpectedly, the half-giant who had been dodging seemed to have changed into a different person, his ferocious and frenzied stance causing the earth elemental's heart to palpitate. Bang! The big guy viciously pushed the earth elemental to the ground, the two huge bodies crashing onto the hard ground of the Magnetite Islands. Then, the big guy and the earth elemental engaged in a fierce hand-to-hand combat. The earth elemental's body was hard. The big guy was barehanded, but he was wearing armor. "You want to hurt Dad? Not allowed, not allowed. Die. The big guy will smash you to pieces." The big guy's voice was like thunder, completely ignoring the earth elemental's hard fists smashing into his body. He entered an absolute berserk state, his fists raining down on the earth elemental like a storm. The fierce battle lasted for a dozen breaths. The big guy's face was bruised and swollen, blood flowing from his mouth and nose. He panted as he stopped punching. The earth elemental he had crushed on the ground had already collapsed into piles of rubble. Among the rubble, there was a lump of clay that gave off an unusual aura. "Dad, you're not hurt, are you?" The big guy realized that the earth elemental had died and suddenly woke up. He got up and ran to the Draconid youth. The Draconid youth looked at the worried and nervous big guy and felt a strong warmth in his heart. He patted the big guy's leg and comforted him. "Can't you see that I'm standing here perfectly fine? It's all thanks to you protecting Dad." The big guy immediately grinned and laughed foolishly. Song Su splashed the unusual lump of clay. "This is rubber clay, a gold-grade alchemy material. It can be molded into the shape of most artifacts." This explained the problem of the greed god bone. This divine bone was still very useful. However, this lump of rubber clay was the biggest gain of the night. The magnetite islands were vast, and there were many islands. The Draconid youth also focused on training the big guy. So after dawn, they destroyed 3 earth elemental settlements and obtained some earth elemental essence and magnetite. At dawn, the Draconid youth led the team back to the Justice. The camp left behind on the magnetite islands was also dismantled. At noon, news came from the deep-sea monster fish. There was no sign of the Blue Charm Temple. Thus, the Draconid youth did not hesitate and set sail again. The small fleet of 3 ships rushed directly to the second suspicious location. The next day, "Old man, get to work. It's not that easy to join the Justice Pirates. Wipe this entire deck clean, and you'll have food to eat today, understand?" Waffle frowned and retorted, "But cleaning this deck is your job." Smack! The whip landed solidly on Waffle's body, causing the old man to fall to the ground. "Just wipe when I tell you to. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Do you still want to stay on the Justice?" The pirates hooted. Bang! At this moment, the door to the first floor was pushed open. The big guy walked out of the door with a ferocious expression and said angrily, "Who's disturbing my sleep?" The few ordinary pirates who were still arrogant suddenly panicked and waved their hands, indicating that it was not them, and then pointed at Waffle. "It's you. How dare you wake me up?" The big guy cruelly approached Waffle. The old man kept retreating and soon retreated to the side of the ship. The big guy directly reached out and grabbed the old man's leg, then turned around and played back. Let me go, let me go. Save me, save me." Waffle kept shouting and struggling desperately, but he was old and weak and was not the opponent of the big guy. He was dragged into the first floor by the big guy. "It's over. I feel like someone is going to die." Go, go. This has nothing to do with us." Yes, we didn't see anything." The pirates watched as the big guy slammed the door shut. Their hearts trembled with fear as they hurriedly left the place. As the door closed, Waffle's vision turned black. "Don't kill me. Spare my life." The old man's face was full of horror as he screamed. "Shut up. I'll eat you if you scream again." The big guy glared at the old man. The old man suddenly stopped talking. The big guy spat out a mouthful of turbid air and climbed back to his bed. His bed was a round piece of fur spread directly on the floor. It was very comfortable. The big guy fell asleep with his back facing the old man, Waffle. The ferocious expression on his face immediately collapsed and was replaced by worry and confusion. Was my performance just now good? Did I reveal any flaws? It was the Draconid youth, Song Su, and the others who had instructed the big guy to behave ferociously. The performance just now had already made the big guy use all his strength. He was cultivating his chi when he heard the noise outside and understood that Waffle was being bullied. This made the big guy immediately recall that he had been bullied in the past. The big guy was full of sympathy for Waffle. Thus, he ran out and saved Waffle in his cabin. But now, he was already regretting it. What should I do next? Dad didn't teach me what to do. What to do? The big guy subconsciously dragged Waffle into his room because whenever he was bullied on the pig's kiss, the old shipwright would also drag him into the cabin to avoid conflict. The big guy just couldn't help but imitate him. The big guy's heart was in a mess when he suddenly heard movement behind him. He turned his head and saw Waffle quietly opening the door. The big guy frowned, and his heart was filled with endless concern. How can you leave? If you continue to be bullied by those people, I won't be able to help you. But he couldn't say these words. He also knew that in order to disguise himself, he couldn't say it. Thus, he fiercely hammered the floor and roared, "Stop! If you run out, I will break your legs." Waffle's body trembled and stood still. He quickly begged for mercy. "Please let me go, sir. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I shouldn't have disturbed your sleep." The big guy frowned. He knew that it was the other pirate's fault. Thus, the big guy roared again, "Shut up. If you speak again, I will beat you to a pulp." The old man immediately shut his mouth and didn't make a sound. The big guy was very satisfied, and his heart calmed down a little. He even felt a little happy and joyful. This should be caring and loving others. That is right. This feeling is great. I can also help others. That's great. The big guy's left and right cheeks were flushed red. He looked at the old man in front of him in a daze and then realized that he was injured. The big guy laughed and thought, "I have Dad's medicine. I can help him again." His image was too terrifying. His hair was disheveled. His mouth was full of yellow teeth. His body was huge. His eyes were bright, and his boorish foolishness had a hint of madness. Waffle's entire body was trembling, as though it wouldn't be surprising if he fainted in the next second. Chapter 257. This is, in the dim cabin, old Waff was stunned. The big man took out a bottle of potion from his bosom and placed it on the floor by his feet. It was obviously a healing medicine, as the medicine inside the glass bottle had a faint red color. "Drink!" The big guy hammered the floor with his fist, causing the medicine to shake violently. Could it be poison? The big guy's ferocious posture made Waff's imagination run wild. The big guy stared at him. Waff clenched his teeth, picked up the medicine, opened the bottle, and drank it all. The medicine entered his stomach and immediately turned into a strong, warm current. The warm current quickly spread throughout his body, and his injuries were immediately healed. It really is a healing medicine. Waff was surprised. Usually, this kind of expensive healing medicine was used by extraordinaires. The injuries on his body were not serious, and to normal people, they would heal by themselves. It was a waste to use healing medicine. Could it be that he wants to heal me first before torturing me? Waff was stunned, because he saw the big guy lying on the bed and falling asleep. Soon, his loud snoring could be heard. Waffle froze on the spot, then frowned slightly. Soon, the big guy opened his eyes. He scratched his fluffy and messy hair in a daze, and then heard old Waff's stomach growling. The big guy was reminded by the sound and immediately reached out to touch his stomach. "It should be time to eat." The big guy said in a low voice. He wanted to get up, but his limbs were so sore that he fell head first onto the bed. "Big guy, I'm too hungry." The big guy muttered to himself in a silly manner. In his memory, there were many times when he was unable to move due to hunger, and the pain was engraved in his heart. "You go out and eat, then bring food back for me." The big guy stared at Waff. Waff nodded and quickly opened the door and ran to the dining room in the cabin. "He's not dead." Seeing Waff run in hurriedly, the few pirates who bullied him were very surprised. Waff did not eat. Instead, he looked around the dining room and quickly fixed his gaze on the dragon youth. He took the initiative to go forward. "Captain, that little giant's condition is very strange." The draconid youth was stunned when he heard the news, but quickly rose and went to the forecastle. "Dad, Captain, why are you here?" The big guy was lying on the bed, looking very dispirited. His eyelids were swollen, and he could only open them slightly. Her entire face was flushed red, and her exposed skin was also covered in red spots. The draconid youth's heart sank. He reached out and placed his palm on the big man's forehead. Boiling hot. The big guy had a fever, like a freshly cooked lobster. "What's going on?" The draconid youth continued probing and found that the combat aura in the big guy's body was also in a mess. The young man narrowed his dragon eyes, feeling that something was amiss. The big guy had the giant bloodline, so his recovery ability was very strong. But now he was still injured. This was an injury he had suffered during his combat training with the Earth Elementals on the Magnetic Islands. Under normal circumstances, these injuries would be completely healed in less than half a day. But now, after such a long time, these injuries were still there, and they were even worsening. Could he have been poisoned? That's impossible. Previously on the Magnetic Islands, the big guy was moving around under my eyes. The Draconid youth cast a questioning look at Song Su, who had just arrived. As a magician, Song Su did not let the young man down. He also did a check and muttered, "It should be a bloodline mutation." Bloodline mutation? The Draconid youth was shocked. In the process of life, there is a certain probability that a bloodline mutation would occur. A certain high-level bloodline that was originally hidden in a life form would suddenly increase in concentration and appear violently. Because it was too intense and sudden, it would often cause the life form's condition to become chaotic. The big guy's bloodline had actually mutated. This meant that his parents or ancestors had a high-level bloodline. This high-level bloodline was like a seed that was continuously passed down through the reproduction of the offspring. When it came to the big guy, due to various complicated and unpredictable factors, the seed had sprouted and the high-level bloodline hidden in the depths of his body had erupted. "Little Guai, don't be nervous. This is a good thing," the Draconid youth comforted. The big guy looked at the Draconid youth and opened his mouth to say something, but soon he fainted. "Sir, I need to take a blood test to prove my guess," Song Su said. Without the Draconid youth permission, he would not act rashly. "Quickly," the Draconid youth said. Immediately, Song Su succeeded in taking the blood test and rushed back to the Justice's alchemy room. Thanks to the previous 2 transactions with the Empire, the Justice's alchemy room was equipped with many alchemy tools. Song Su was originally not familiar with how to operate these alchemy tools. However, recently, he had been studying the use of soul crystals. With the help of the Tower Genie and the Ward Dealer's alchemy notes, he was now half an alchemist. After taking the blood test and a series of operations, Song Su returned to the ship's forecastle with the results. "Sir," the old scholar hurriedly reported to the Draconid youth, "it is indeed a bloodline mutation. The big guy's bloodline is actually the bloodline of the Earth Giant," the old scholar sighed. "Earth Giant?" The Draconid youth was puzzled. The old scholar said, "Now, this bloodline is extremely rare, almost extinct. However, sir should know, in history, there was a powerhouse with this bloodline. He was called Tai Hao." Tai Hao? The Draconid youth was shocked. This name was like thunder in his ears. Tai Hao. This was a powerhouse from a very long time ago, even comparable to legends, when humans, elves, and dwarves were ignorant and weak tribes. Giants and dragons were the world's overlords. Tai Hao was a powerhouse among giants. More accurately, he was a god among giants. According to historical records, giants and dragons started a war, wanting to defeat each other and become the world's only overlord. Tai Hao slaughtered countless. A large number of legendary giants contributed to his valiant battle record. No less than 5 divine dragons died in his hands. In the final battle, he suffered a despicable plight. His strength was greatly reduced. In the siege, he still took away the Lord God-level giant dragon before he died. After perishing together, his divine body fell into the vast ocean. His boundless divine power and vigorous physical body transformed into a vast continent. This continent was named Tai Hao. In the endless years that followed, Tai Hao continent continued to split. The continent that split off collided with other continents, joined together, and separated. According to the scholars' calculations, more than half of the current Frost continent came from Tai Hao continent. The big guy actually has Tai Hao's bloodline. This is a god-level bloodline. The Draconid youth was stunned. Song Su sighed. The possibility of a mistake is very low. This bloodline should have been passed down for many generations and finally mutated in his body. Bloodline, god level. The meaning behind this was extraordinary. The big guy might have cultivated to become a god. Song Su sighed. Who would have thought? Among all the survivors of Bewilderment Island, This ugly half-giant had the best aptitude. This is the unpredictable, awe-inspiring, love-hate fate. The Draconid youth pondered, so there's actually a reason for the big guy's madness. Yes, Song Su nodded. Now it seems that his madness was due to the mutation of his bloodline. For the growth of the Earth giant bloodline, Earth elements are the most basic nutrients. But the big guy was abandoned on the pig's kiss when he was young. Until now, most of his life was on the surface of the sea, wrapped in rich water elements. The big guy kept growing, and the Earth giant bloodline slowly absorbed the meager Earth elements, accumulating them. On Bewilderment Island, the big guy stepped on land for a long time, and the efficiency of absorbing Earth elements greatly increased. My lord, do you still remember when he went crazy? The Draconid youth nodded. When the volcano erupted. That's right. Song Su nodded. The volcano erupted because of the Flame Dragon King. It wanted to escape, causing the earth and fire elements to riot. The Earth giant bloodline is extraordinary, and it can allow the big guy to sense the movement of the earth veins. At the same time, it secretly madly absorbed earth elements, causing the big guy to go crazy. Lon Zao once said that when the big guy went crazy, he could accurately predict storms and waves. When we were on the island, after he went crazy, there would often be earthquakes. This is actually just a facade. Before storms and waves, and before earthquakes, the concentration of earth elements would change greatly. The god-rank bloodline also made the big guy instinctively feel that his life was in danger. As for this time, we were the ones who landed on the magnetic islands. The big guy fought with the earth elements, and he had never been so close to the earth elements. I even suspect that many of the earth elemental corpses could originally condense earth element essence, but it was secretly madly absorbed by the big guy's god-rank bloodline. Finally, after leaving the island and boarding the ship, the big guy's bloodline finally received enough nutrients, and it truly began to mutate. The Draconid youth narrowed his eyes. So, the bloodline stabilizer is effective on him. He mutated into the Draconid form because of the blood core in his heart. But he lied to the outside world that it was a bloodline mutation. In order to deepen this layer of disguise, the Draconid youth did not hesitate to spend a lot of money to exchange for a silver-grade bloodline stabilizer from the Empire's inventory. The bloodline stabilizer was specially made to deal with bloodline mutations. But the big guy's bloodline was the real mutation. The Draconid youth had always kept the bloodline stabilizer in his hand. At this moment, he took it out without hesitation, opened the big guy's mouth, and poured all the medicine inside. After a few breaths, the big guy's originally labored breathing immediately calmed down. His boiling body temperature also rapidly decreased. Chapter 258. Seeing that the big guy's condition had stabilized, the Draconid youth breathed a sigh of relief. But the next moment, the big guy's aura suddenly changed. Before the Draconid youth's eyes, the big guy's cultivation had broken through to the bronze level, officially breaking through the identity of an ordinary person and becoming an extraordinary. The Draconid youth and Song Su were both surprised and bewildered. The big guy's cultivation was already close to the bronze level, and now the god-level bloodline has taken effect, allowing him to take the last step. Not good. The Draconid youth's expression changed. The big guy who had just stabilized was in a terrible state again. The little giant's breathing became difficult again, and his brows were tightly knitted in his unconscious state, as if he was having a terrible nightmare. What's going on? The Draconid youth asked Song Su. Song Su took a deep breath. This is a god-level bloodline. It's too high-end. Sir, your bloodline stabilizing potion is only at the silver level. It's very difficult to have an effect. The Draconid youth shook his head. No, when he took the potion, he was just an ordinary person. Even now, he's just a bronze fighter. How can a silver-level potion not work? Song Su shook his head. Bloodline mutation varies from person to person. Captain, the reason why you're suitable for the silver-level potion is that your body's condition is very stable, and you have a strong foundation of fighting aura. And the big guy's mutation is too intense. Think about it. He spent most of his life on the sea, and his Earth giant bloodline has always been suppressed. Now that it's suddenly erupted, it's like a flood pouring out of a dam. Looking at it now, it's completely impossible for the silver-level bloodline stabilizing potion to contain it. The gold-level potion is also very difficult, but the saint-level potion is qualified to try. It's even possible for the top-level potion. The Draconid youth couldn't help but be silent. How could he get such a high-end potion? In fact, even the gold-level bloodline stabilizing potion was very far away. The most promising way was still to rely on the Empire to raise his authority to the silver level, and then he might be able to exchange for some gold-level resources. As for potions higher than the gold level, that was too far away. The Draconid youth stared at the little giant, who was breathing more and more difficult, and asked anxiously, "Is there any other way?" Song Su said with certainty, "Of course there is. We can use divine spells or spells to heal them. The reason why bloodline mutations bring life-threatening danger is, in essence, because the high-grade bloodline's modification of the low-grade life forms is too fierce, causing the originally stable life form to be greatly impacted and on the verge of collapse. Without treatment, the big guy will definitely be turned into a pile of flesh and blood by the impact of the divine bloodline. However, if we maintain stable and effective treatment during this process, we should be able to help him through this difficult time. The big guy was not a pureblood, but a hybrid between a human and a giant. If it was a pure-blooded great earth giant, their growth would be very slow. However, since they were born as great earth giants, their life structure was very stable and could grow smoothly. The big guy was a mixed blood. He had the bloodline of both the earth giant and the human race. This was reflected in the fact that his physique was weaker than a normal giant's, but he was far stronger than an ordinary human. It was the same for physical fitness and recovery ability. Previously, the two bloodlines in the big guy's body coexisted and were relatively stable. Occasionally, there would be conflicts, causing the big guy to go crazy. But now, the god-level bloodline had completely mutated, causing a powerful impact on the big guy's human bloodline. The earth giant's bloodline was too strong, so the big guy's original form was no longer suitable. It was like the big guy was originally just a wooden house, and the god-level bloodline needed a castle. Now, the wooden house was on the verge of destruction, and the castle had yet to take shape. If the bloodline mutation continued, the entire wooden house, including the foundation, would be destroyed, and the castle would definitely not be built successfully. During this process, if there were enough healers, it would be equivalent to a powerful external force protecting the entire wooden house. They would constantly repair the wooden house, so that the wooden house and its foundation would always be maintained. Eventually, it would expand into a castle. The big guy's life was in danger. If the bloodline he mutated into was of a lower grade, it would be easier to deal with the situation. He might even be able to withstand it alone. However, the Earth Giant's bloodline was too high grade, and it became the big guy's life-threatening talisman. What should I do? The Draconian youth was at a loss. Although Tsang Su said that treatment could help the big guy, the youth knew that it was extremely difficult to do so. He could see some clues from the bloodline stabilizer. Only treatment methods of gold grade and above could truly help the big guy. Is there any chance of your necromancy spells? Hoping for a fluke, the Draconian youth asked. Tsang Su shook his head. Unfortunately, my captain, I can't do anything about it. In fact, even if there was a way, I'm only of iron grade. I can't cast spells of a higher grade. Then how can we find a mage to help the big guy? No, compared to a mage, a clergyman is more suitable. But coming into contact with these people is extremely risky. Divine spells come from the gods, and helping the big guy will expose all of us, as well as the truth of Labyrinth Island, to the gods. The Draconian youth could not help but panic. First, use the healing potion to stabilize the big guy's body. I'll ask the Tower Genie. In the end, he made this decision. Tsang Su nodded, obeying the captain's orders. Not long after, This old scholar took the initiative to board the little bird when the draconian youth secretly snuck into the strange fish. "You're in a leisurely mood, coming to my place to pass the time?" As the captain of the little bird, Zongu entertained Song Su. Song Su's expression was solemn. "There's an important matter that I must discuss with you. This matter is related to our survival." Song Su then told Zongu in detail about the big guy. Zongu was slightly stunned, then reacted and sighed. "I didn't expect something like this to happen." Song Su sighed. "According to our captain's nature, he definitely won't give up on the big guy. We all know the state of the tower genie. It's severely damaged, and the one who really listens to it is ZD. She has the authority. If the captain can find a suitable method from it, that would be the best. But this may be very, very small. Mages are very difficult to hire, and there are very few mages who are good at healing. In the end, the captain will most likely use divine spells to treat the big guy. However, this action is very risky. Once the slightest clue is exposed, our painstaking disguise and efforts will all be for naught, and we'll become prisoners. It's possible that we'll be executed in secret or in public." Zhong Ji's brows furrowed. "So what do you think?" Song Su cried and sighed. "Of course, I also hope that the big guy will get better. However, life won't change just because of our hope. The big guy is basically hopeless. Because time is too tight, and we don't have any high-end connections, it's difficult to treat him in time. We have 2 great divine artifacts, and these treasures can be used as bargaining chips. But it's still the same as before, it's too risky. We're very likely to be attacked and looted because of exposing these. We need to work together, Zongu." Zongu was silent for a while. He was afraid of Song Su and secretly guarded against the latter. However, he had to admit that the necromancer's words made sense. The merciful couldn't command troops, using local sacrifices in exchange for the overall victory. This was the knowledge that Zongu had long understood as a general. The beastman's thoughts were boiling. If we let the captain do as he pleases, I'm afraid that in the end, it'll be like what Song Su said. However, is this necromancer really thinking about the overall situation? Does he have no selfish motives? Does he not want to use this opportunity to seek something? Does he not have a plot to use me as a tool? Zhong Ji's vigilance towards Song Su increased, but he was calm and did not show it on his face. In the end, he nodded slightly, looked at Song Su, and asked tentatively, "What do you want to do?" Song Su was obviously relieved. "On this matter, we need to reach a consensus. As for what to do, don't worry, the captain is my savior. I definitely won't harm him. I think the first step is to spread the news." Zhong Ji's eyes suddenly lit up. This was indeed a good idea. To deal with different people, one had to use different methods. To deal with despicable people, using despicable methods would make the other party wary. Using violence to respond to violence would often win respect. As for the Dragon Man captain, using a proverb from the Eastern Empire, a gentleman should not bully others. With Zhong Ji's acquiescence and Song Su's secret spreading, the news about the big guy quickly spread among the survivors of Confusion Island. Bloodline mutation, promotion to bronze while unconscious, imminent death. When these shocking words were put together, the people who heard it were dumbfounded. On the empty stern deck, Baya held 2 thick ropes tightly with both hands. He kept shaking his arms and swinging the ropes, diligently cultivating his fighting spirit. He was sweating profusely, panting, and constantly checking his own condition. After a long period of hard work, the fighting spirit produced is still faint. If I had Senior Suma's talent, I would only need to cultivate for 2 to 3 minutes, and the results would be more than my hard work of half a day. Bloodline. The more he understood about cultivation, the more depressed and disappointed Baya felt. Cultivation was not something that could be achieved with hard work. Most people could only be ordinary people for their entire lives, but some people were destined to be extraordinary from the moment they were born. Bloodline mutation. Can I really have a bloodline mutation? This was Baya's only hope. But after learning about Suma, he realized how low the probability of a bloodline mutation was. Even if his ancestor's bloodline source was extraordinary, There was a seed of mutation hidden in his body, but it was very likely that he had reached the end of his life, and this seed would still be hidden. At this moment, there was a loud noise and exclamation from the ship of justice. Baya stopped cultivating and went to the side of the little bird to look. He saw the big guy with disheveled hair, roaring nonstop, rampaging on the deck of the ship of justice, constantly hitting the mast. The big guy's going crazy again. Baya was anxious. Baya, so you were here? A survivor of the bewildering island came to Baya's side. I have news for you. Hearing this, Baya's eyes widened. He, the big guy, his bloodline mutated? Shock washed over him. Then, he felt happy for his companion's opportunity. He felt envious. This was the situation he had been looking forward to. Such a low-probability event actually happened by his side. He felt disappointed. Bloodline mutation. Why didn't I have one? He also sympathized with the big guy. A bloodline mutation that was too high level had become a curse. The big guy was going to die. For a moment, complex emotions spread in his heart, making the young man stand still at the side of the ship. Very good. This is a new opportunity. In a corner, Sang-Soo looked at the crazy big guy, his eyes emitting a cold light. Chapter 259. On the deck of the Righteous, the big guy was rampaging. Wherever he went, the pirates who could not dodge in time were sent flying. The pirates were terrified, screaming as they fled, causing chaos on the deck. It was obvious that the big guy was not in his right mind. He quickly treated the main mast of the Righteous as his greatest enemy and rammed into it. The Righteous was a black iron-grade magical ship. The main mast was only bent a little after being hit by the big guy, and then it bounced back with even greater force. The big guy took a few big steps back and then sat on the ground. The big guy flew into a rage out of humiliation and quickly got up. His face was ferocious, and his eyes were red as he pounced on the main mast again. At the same time, his bronze aura continued to rise. Roar. Innate spell, Dragon's Roar. The next moment, the Draconid youth rushed back. He roared loudly, and the dragon's voice was so loud that it knocked the big guy unconscious. Then, the Draconid youth leaped lightly behind the big guy. With a light swipe of his dragon claw, the big guy was knocked unconscious. The big guy fell to the ground, his eyes rolling back. At the same time, white foam flowed out of the corner of his mouth. The pirates cheered. We're saved. What's going on? Many people were still in shock. Why do I feel like this monster has grown a little bigger? Someone was puzzled. He has indeed grown bigger, the Draconid youth said to himself as he looked down at the big guy. Not only did the big guy suddenly grow a head taller, but his muscles were also very red and swollen. Even after being knocked unconscious, he could not help but tremble like he was having a seizure. His situation was getting worse and worse. The mutation of his god-level bloodline caused his life form to quickly rush towards the cliff of collapse. Continue working. Lock him up with iron chains and lock him up in the original cabin, the Draconid youth ordered. Is this the mutation of his bloodline? He didn't need to cultivate and directly broke through to the bronze level, and his aura is still growing. Baya stood on the railing of the little bird, watching the big guy being chained up and dragged into the ship's forecastle. His expression was very complicated. The goal that he had worked so hard to achieve was still so far away, and there was little hope for him to achieve it. But the big guy was advancing while unconscious, and if he survived, this was only the starting point, not the end. Our captain doesn't seem to want to give up on the big guy. Of course, back on the island, the big guy acknowledged the captain as his father. Sigh, the big guy's situation is not good. I'm afraid he's going to die. The survivors on Confusion Island were secretly communicating with each other. At the same time, the other pirates were also discussing. Strange, why didn't the dragon suit captain just kill him? He injured many of us. It's too terrifying. He suddenly went crazy, and a few people even lost their lives on the spot. He even attacked the main mast. This is the most unforgivable crime. The big guy suddenly went crazy and exposed himself, causing him to be criticized by almost everyone. Sang-Soo was secretly adding fuel to the fire. Very quickly, public opinion surged. Kill him. He must pay with his life. He's too terrifying. He's not human at all. Think about it carefully. From the moment he boarded the ship, he hid in the forecastle and slept. They don't work at all and contribute nothing to the pirates. He even wants to eat people. That guy called Waffle was almost eaten. The pirates' communication became more and more outrageous, turning the big guy into a monster. In order to prove their words, a few fierce pirates even surrounded Waffle and forced the old man to testify. Waffle was threatened and warned. He trembled and wanted to refute. But before he could speak, the pirate beside him impatiently announced, "Look, this poor old man is so scared that he can't speak. I think we shouldn't force this old guy anymore. Yes, this way. What's the difference between us and that monster?" Everyone felt that this was the truth. They condemned the big guy's crime and gradually reached a consensus that he should be quickly executed. The Draconid youth noticed the surging public opinion. He quickly walked out of the forecastle and gathered almost all the pirates on the deck. At the same time, the little bird and the rapid were also next to the justice. The three ships temporarily anchored on the sea. "Listen to me," the Draconid youth roared. His loud voice clearly spread to the three pirate ships. "This half-giant is my crew member, my subordinate. He's a lucky man, but also a pitiful man. His bloodline mutated, but because of this, his life is in danger. He was tortured to the point of insanity, and this was not his intention. If we don't help him now, he's dead. We don't need to do anything. But I won't kill him, and I won't sit by and watch him die. I will help him." There was a commotion among the crew. "Why?" the Draconid youth asked and answered himself. "Because we are the Justice Pirates. Look at the pirate flag flying above our heads. Justice. Yes, who would add the word justice to the pirate flag? We are different from most other pirates. When we first set sail, I said that we are not plundering merchant ships, but pirate ships. I don't care what other captains do. But on my ship, I don't care if you are a human, a goblin, or a hybrid between a giant and a human, I will treat you the same. Because as long as it's life, any life, is worthy of being treated seriously." The pirates quieted down, and when Waffle heard this, his whole body shook. "As long as you are on my ship and recognize me as the captain, I will take care of you. My sword will not be easily pointed at my own people." Think about it. Everyone, if one day you have the same situation as him, and your bloodline also mutates, you go crazy because of this and hurt other companions. What do you desire? To be killed or to be helped? But I know that this big guy has hurt a lot of people and even killed a few lives. So, we have to help him. We can't let him die so easily. If he survives, he'll be a bronze fighter or maybe a black iron fighter. He needs to atone for his sins and fight on the front line when the war starts. He needs to contribute to us and make up for our losses. He needs to make money, and the money he earns will be used to compensate the families of the victims. It's more advantageous for us to do this, isn't it? The pirates nodded. The dragon captain's words made sense. But they were still worried. The dragon youth knew what they were thinking and immediately announced, "Next, I will personally take charge of the ship's bow and watch over this guy. You don't have to worry about him going crazy again. With me here, what are you afraid of?" "Oh!" The pirates raised their arms and shouted. "The captain is right. This is the dragon captain. He is too loyal, just like Firebeard." Waff used a different gaze to size up the Draconid youth standing high above. Many of his new companions on the pirate ship had the same thought as him. This was a different pirate captain. A speech that turned the tide. In the dark, Song Su laughed helplessly. "It seems that I have underestimated your leadership ability. My captain." On the bow, the dragon youth and the big guy were alone. The big guy's breathing became more rapid, his breath strong and weak. The dragon youth began to use medicine on the big guy. Bottles of healing medicine. Under the effect of the medicine, the big guy's terrible situation was obviously alleviated. For example, he was originally running towards a cliff, but now he was walking. The medicine could buy him some time, but it could not really solve the problem. Falling off the cliff was still the biggest trend. As time passed, A situation that left the Draconid youth even more anxious appeared. He found that the effect of the healing medicine was gradually weakening. Originally, he used bronze medicine, but gradually, he had to use black iron medicine to achieve the same effect. The dragon youth secretly returned to deep-sea monster fish. However, the tower genie did not respond to his request and call. Only ZD had the authority. Although the youth had been modified, he did not have the authority to do so. The only thing that made the dragon youth happy was that he still had a lot of healing medicine in his hands, and there were gold and even holy medicines. These were all from the war traffickers. Although this legendary alchemist was not good at making medicine, and had engaged in a life-and-death battle with the strong team of the Bloodbath Sanctions Institution, there were still some remaining in the relevant inventory. The dragon youth ordered Song Su to take some gold medicine from deep-sea monster fish. Dragon Captain, our ship is heading to White Wing Harbor. Everything is going well, Song Su reported. Very good. The dragon youth took the medicine, but his eyes were fixed on the unconscious big guy. There is the Church of Life in White Wing Harbor, and the nearest bishop of the Church of Life is there. He can help the big guy. Before asking for help, I will use the device that makes memory crystals to make both me and the big guy lose our memories and forge a memory. The Draconid youth revealed his plan. Song Su's expression was ugly. This is still very risky. First of all, the memory device is not stable and reliable. Secondly, forging memories requires exquisite alchemy techniques, which we do not have at all. Finally, even if we succeed in forging memories, will the gods not notice? Perhaps that was the case before, but now that the technology of memory crystals is known to the gods, they will definitely be on guard. If you bring the big guy with you, you will most likely be walking into a trap. The dragon youth shook his head and waved his hand. I've already made the decision. Carry it out. Song Su sighed and retreated. After retreating, he immediately sought the cooperation of Zhongguo and secretly gathered the survivors of Bewilderment Island when they were anchored at night. The thing I was most worried about still happened. Song Su told everyone about the dragon youth's decision. He is a good leader, and that is why we love and respect him. But it is undeniable that this is also his weakness. He is risking his life to save a fool, a mixed blood monster, and it is very likely that all of us will be taking a huge risk because of this. Let's vote. Those who do not agree with the captain's actions, raise your right hand. Those who agree, raise your left hand. We need to let the captain know our thoughts. I still trust him and believe in him. He is a wise leader with high morals. Now, he needs us to help him cross this moral hurdle. Song Su raised his right hand before he finished speaking, clearly expressing his attitude. Some people quickly raised their hands. There were also some who hesitated. Bai was one of them. The big guy will always be our comrade. Now, are we just going to stand by and do nothing? The captain's speech during the day was very right. If it happened to me, I would rather be helped and saved. Bloodline mutation, why didn't it happen to me? Bai could not make up his mind. At this moment, he heard the people beside him urging him. Baya, quickly raise your hand. You are the only one left. Baya suddenly quivered. No matter what, I still support the captain. I can't do it to my own people. Baya quickly raised his hand. Then, in the next moment, he was stunned. The young man's eyes revealed a hint of fear. Why? I raised my right hand. Baya could not believe it, and for a moment, he was at a loss and did not know how to salvage the situation. Song Su's indifferent and cold voice immediately sounded. Everyone's right hand, very good. Chapter 260. It was hot and stuffy in the forecastle. The biggest source of heat was Big Guy. Big Guy was unconscious and lying on the bed, his breathing becoming more and more difficult. The Draconid youth sat cross-legged in front of him and fed him a healing potion from time to time. The grade of the healing potion had been upgraded to gold. Dragon Suit Captain. At this moment, Song Su's voice came from outside the door. Come in, the Draconid youth said. And so, Song Su, Fat Tongue, Baya, Lanzeo, and the others walked into the cabin one after another. Their gazes were first attracted to Big Guy. Bai let out a low cry, and Big Guy's body almost doubled in size. His entire body was dripping with blood. His flesh and skin were chapped and bleeding, and he could only rely on healing potions to keep him alive. "Are you here to persuade me?" the Draconid youth said faintly. "Captain, you are still as wise and benevolent as ever." Song Su sighed. "We are indeed here to persuade you. But more accurately, we are here to help you. Big Guy is not the only one in danger. You are also in danger, our leader. At this moment, you are also in some kind of predicament." The Draconid youth turned his head slightly. "What do you mean?" Song Su said sincerely. "You are our leader. You are outstanding and fully deserving of this title. You treat people fairly from the bottom of your heart. There is no hypocrisy in this. You want to take care of every one of us and bravely shoulder the responsibility of a leader on your own shoulders. However, everyone's strength is limited. My lord, you are the same. Big Guy is in a desperate situation. You want to save him, but don't you realize that you are also in a desperate situation? Asking for help from divine arts is risky, almost like walking into a trap. But your noble sentiments let you ignore these dangers. Nobility is the epitaph of the noble, and despicableness is the passport of the despicable. My lord, before we came, we secretly gathered all of our people. We held a vote and asked for everyone's opinion." At this point, Song Su looked at Zhongge. Zhong Ji's face was solemn as he announced the result of the vote. "No one supports your plan, Captain. Is that so?" The Draconid youth lowered his head, looking disappointed and helpless. "Master," Lan Zhao said, "if you want to take the risk and insist on going to the temple, then I will definitely follow you. Even if it means death, please let me die first. However, I implore you not to do so. Your life is more precious than mine, more precious than the Big Guy, and more precious than anyone else." At this point, Lan Zhao fell to his knees with a plop, his face full of pleading. The Dragonoid youth was shocked. Fat Tongue also advised, My guild master's feelings for you. Everyone knows, don't you feel it at all? If you insist on taking the risk and die here, what will happen to President ZD? She is still waiting for you to save her. Even in the future, President ZD is lucky enough to wake up, but she receives the news that you were executed by God. How sad she will be. Please consider the feelings of others. Big Guy has nothing to do with you. He is just a mixed race, and his intelligence is very low. The Draconid youth was silent. Zhongge finally said, "You are a leader. A leader can be benevolent, but you should take the overall situation into consideration. The Justice Pirates were formed by you. All of us act around you. If we lose you, do you know what will happen to us? Who can listen to me, a half-orc's orders? Who will really trust Song Su, a necromancer? You are more important than you think. The Justice Pirates can lack the rest of us, but not you. If you ignore the others for the sake of the Big Guy, is this what a leader should do?" The Draconid youth shook his head slightly, and his tone was low. "Everyone, I am not as great as you say. I just don't want to see the Big Guy die like this. I am a half-orc, or even a human-shaped magical beast transformed by a warmonger. And since he was young, he was also a monster that was not tolerated by the people around him. Whether it was on the Pig's Kiss or on the Island of Confusion, he was ostracized and doubted. So, looking at him, to some extent, is like looking at myself. In fact, everyone, I don't want you to give up on him. I especially don't want to see this happen. If you're the Big Guy, do you yearn for the abandonment of your companions or help? Should we give up on him? According to your analysis, that seems to be the case. But I have a different idea. Among us, there are half-orcs, goblins, necromancers, mixed-race giants, and humans, and there are half-orcs like me. How can we trust each other and rely on each other?" Song Su and Zhongge could not help but change their expression slightly. What does the Justice Pirates need the most? Is it pearl foam? Is it time? No, it's our trust in each other. What's the difference between us and the Big Guy? We all have our own specialties, and we are not tolerated by others. Today, if we give up on the Big Guy, this is indeed the easiest action to take. Then in the future, What confidence do we have that others will not abandon us? The big guy, although he is ugly and his IQ is not high, his character is more noble than mine. He is willing to use his life to protect his loved ones. Because of the words of the old shipwright, he sacrificed his life to protect our newly built ship. He trusts me, relies on me, and treats me as his last family, the only person in the world to rely on. He never builds his own happiness and happiness on the pain of others. He never lied or deceived us. In this regard, I can't compare to him because I also hide a lot of things from you. Is such a person not worth saving? He's the most worthy person among us to be saved because he has a heart as sincere as gold. We have all committed great sins, and we all yearn for redemption. But if we don't save him, our companions, what face do we have to fight for our own redemption? There was silence in the cabin. Facing the Draconid youth's rhetorical question, everyone was speechless. The Draconid youth continued, "Although the big guy is unconscious, he must be convinced that I can help him, just like he always wanted to help me. I am willing to take the risk, not just for him, but for all of us. I hope to use my actions to practice my way of the night." After a long time, Song Su sighed, "Sir, I have already seen a knight's flag flying high behind you. You see further than us. We have no reason to stop you. On the contrary, you have convinced me. Please let me use a small spell to stimulate the big guy's spirit and wake him up. If he stays awake, he will be able to operate his Do Chi and stabilize his injuries." The Draconid youth was a little doubtful. "There won't be any side effects, right?" Song Su said, "Don't worry, sir. This is not a necromancy spell. Even if the Life Church's bishop sees some clues, he will not think that the big guy is evil." The Draconid youth no longer had any doubts. After Song Su cast the spell, the big guy quickly woke up, but his mind was still a little dazed. Song Su changed his attitude from before and spoke gently to the big guy. Soon after, everyone left the ship's forecastle, leaving only the Draconid youth and the big guy. Fat Tongue sighed. "Are we just going to watch the captain throw his life away?" "Baya, but I think the captain is right." Song Su smiled and looked at Lan Zhao. "Are you willing to sacrifice your life for your master?" "Of course." Lan Zhao did not hesitate. Song Su asked again, "Then, do you think the big guy will?" Lan Zhao thought for a moment and nodded affirmatively. Song Su became expressionless. The captain's words were sincere. We all heard them and felt his spirit. "That's enough. I think our vote is not comprehensive. We are still missing one person." A strange look appeared on Zhong Ji's face. "You mean the big guy?" Song Su nodded and said to Lan Zhao, "The captain can't always watch over the big guy. I've already saved the big guy. His mind will become clearer and clearer. It's very suitable for you to go. You go tell the big guy everything. Let him vote for himself." "This?" Lan Zhao was shocked. "To avoid any more trouble, I'll give this to you." Song Su said and handed Lan Zhao a dagger. Lan Zhao's expression struggled. Then, he took the dagger. Chapter 261. Dong Dong Dong. "Sir, Lan Zhao requests to see you." Lan Zhao's voice came from outside the door. After getting permission from the Draconid youth, Lan Zhao respectfully and solemnly opened the cabin door and walked in. "Dragon Captain, you've been waiting here for a long time. You need to eat something. Let me take your place." The Draconid youth hesitated slightly. The big guy was already awake. "Dad, eat something or you'll be hungry." The Draconid youth couldn't help but smile. Song Su's method was unique, and the big guy became more awake. After the youth's encouragement and comfort, the big guy's mental state was now very stable. "Then let Lan Zhao accompany you for a while. Is that okay? He's someone Dad trusts." The Draconid youth said. The big guy hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. The Draconid youth opened the cabin door and temporarily left the big guy's side. He wasn't going to eat, but Lan Zhao's words reminded him that what he needed to do most was to fulfill the captain's responsibility and inspect the pirate's work. He had taken the risk to change the course for the big guy, and now he needed to stabilize the pirate's morale. Now that Lan Zhao was alone with the big guy immediately became nervous. Lon Zao gritted his teeth and suddenly opened his mouth. The sound, just as he spoke, caused the big guy's body to tremble. Then, the situation revealed by the cyanobacteria made the big man dumbfounded. Dad, he's going to die for me. The big guy was extremely shocked. He might die, Lon Zao said honestly. If we want to save you, we'll have to ask for a bishop's help. This will expose us to the eyes of the gods. The big guy tried his best to restrain himself and used his teeth to tightly bite his lower lip, but he still let out a whimper. Am I going to die? I won't be able to see Dad anymore. Cyanobacteria closed his eyes, then opened them again. His pupils were red. Yes, if you die, you won't be able to see Master anymore. Now, Master is determined to save you, and the others don't agree. Master is stubborn. He might die because of you. No, I don't want Dad to die. Die not good. The big guy shook his head and wept. Lower your voice. Do you want to be discovered by Master? He's been trying to hide the truth from you. Lon Zao immediately tried to dissuade him. The big guy quickly suppressed his cries and wiped his tears with his swollen and chubby arms. Lon Zao licked his dry lips. At this moment, he had never felt so difficult to speak. But in the end, he still said, the only one who can save Master and everyone else is you, big guy. Lon Zao took out a dagger and handed it to the big guy. Only if you die early will the Master accept this fact and not take the risk to go to the temple again. The big man stared blankly at the dagger in Lon Zao's hand. After several breaths, he looked at Lon Zao. Are you telling the truth? Of course. Lon Zao said with absolute certainty, if it's possible, I'm willing to sacrifice my life for Master. But now you're the only choice. The big guy's tears rolled down again. It's all my fault. If it wasn't for my bloodline mutation, Dad wouldn't have taken the risk. Woo-woo. While crying, he took the dagger. He pointed the tip of the dagger at his heart. The big guy's body was in a terrible state. If it wasn't for Tsang Su's magic, he would have been unconscious forever. His body was on the verge of collapse. His original recovery ability had completely disappeared. If the dagger pierced his heart, this kind of injury would kill him on the spot. However, he held the dagger in a reverse grip and couldn't stab it down. I still want to see Dad one more time, can I? The big guy begged Lon Zao. Lon Zao seemed to have been stabbed in the heart first. He endured the pain and kept Tsang Su's words in mind. He shook his head. He was so cruel and cold that he didn't believe it was himself. No, big guy, I know how you feel, but you can't. For everyone, and for Master, you have to understand. The big guy started sobbing. Tears flowed down his face. He never thought that just a moment ago, his father had been gently encouraging him to pull himself together and persevere. In the next moment, he had to say goodbye to his father. Separation of life and death. However, Lon Zao's reason convinced him. He didn't want to implicate his father. He didn't want the dragon youth to risk his life for him. The big guy's crying stopped abruptly. He gritted his teeth and closed his eyes, but his face was full of determination. The next moment, he pulled his arms back and drove the dagger towards his heart. Puff! There was a soft sound. The blood didn't stop flowing. The big guy's body trembled violently. The expected pain didn't come. He opened his eyes and revealed a look of surprise. At the crucial moment, it was Lon Zao who reached out and held the dagger tightly. Warm blood splattered from his palm and continued to flow down. You can see Master one more time, but please don't talk about what just happened. Do you understand? Lon Zao said bitterly. At the crucial moment, his heart softened. An impulse surged in his heart, causing him to block the fatal dagger, causing him to toss Tsang Su's warning to the side. The big guy was pleasantly surprised. The big guy nodded frantically. Tears flowed down his face again. This time, they were tears of joy. The dragon youth inspected the justice, calmed the pirates, and returned to the ship's forecastle. Master is coming back. Do you still remember what I told you? You have to be steady. Lon Zao reminded the big guy one last time. The big guy nodded fiercely. I remember. First, your expression must be natural. Second, your tone must be calm. Third, your movements must be steady. After a dozen breaths, the cabin door opened and the dragon youth walked in. The big guy was silent. He was as hard as a rock as he stared at the dragon youth. The dragon youth was a little confused. He smiled and said, "What's wrong, father?" The big guy roared and hugged the dragon youth. Lonzeo glared at him fiercely. The big guy froze in place. He realized that he was too excited and quickly stopped himself from hugging the dragon youth. He originally stretched out his arms and was about to get up. Now that he suddenly stopped, he lost his balance and fell to the floor. "It hurts." The big guy couldn't help but moan. His body's condition was so poor that he couldn't even withstand the force of the impact. The dragon youth quickly walked to his side and helped him back to the bed. "Don't be too excited. Father is here. You will get better. Just hold on for one more day, and we will reach White Wing Harbor. When we get there, Father will ask someone to help you get through this difficult time. Father still wants you to become strong in the future and help Father." According to the schedule, the Justice was indeed only one day away from White Wing Harbor. However, even if the dragon youth entered White Wing Harbor, he still had to spend time to find the life-sex bishop and persuade him to help. The real time spent was definitely longer than one day. Of course, this included the possibility of using force if he couldn't persuade him verbally. Looking at the youth in front of him, the big guy bit his lip and let out a sobbing sound. Lonzeo walked up and glared at him fiercely again. The big guy was reminded and quickly covered his mouth with his hand, but the tears couldn't stop flowing. He hurriedly covered his eyes again. Lonzeo was speechless. The dragon youth gently brushed away the big guy's hand. "Is it too painful? Hold on, Father will help you." The big guy froze for a moment and quickly nodded. "Father, thank you. Father will be fine too." "Of course." The dragon youth touched the big guy's head. The big guy narrowed his eyes and was immersed in his happiness. But the next moment, the youth's dragon claw suddenly slashed down. The big guy's neck was hit. This familiar feeling, the big guy fell unconscious. The dragon youth's face was heavy as he turned to Lonzeo. "Does he know all the facts?" Lonzeo immediately half-knelt on the ground and lowered his head. "Yes, I told him." The dragon youth snorted and was about to speak when the lookout's alarm came from outside the door. "Pirate ship found. Many ships. Oh no, it's the Silver Hook. The Silver Hook pirates have been found ahead." The dragon youth's heart sank. At this time, he hurriedly ordered the fleet to avoid them. "We can't avoid them. They have found us and are coming at us." The helmsman reported. There was no other way. The dragon youth could only lead Lonzeo out of the cabin and to the deck to face the Silver Hook pirates. Chapter 262. The sea breeze whistled and the waves surged. The Silver Hook led more than a dozen pirate ships and quickly approached the Justice ship. Gulp. Many of the pirates on the Justice ship swallowed their saliva as a chill ran down their spines. The other party was aggressive. Just by looking at the number of ships, it was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. The Justice pirates only had 3 ships, and one of them was a normal ship. The Silver Hook had 16 pirate ships, and 6 of them were Magic-class ships. The Silver Hook was a black iron-class Magic-class ship like the Justice ship. Silver Hook, what's he trying to do? He won't start a war, right? He shouldn't. Our ships have shallow waterline and have just rested. There are no traces of battle. This means that we didn't rob anything. We are all pirates. According to common sense, the Silver Hook won't attack us. But why are they attacking us? Compared to this, I believe they are more worried about our dragon captain. Didn't he say that we were hunting the other pirates? The Justice pirates generally had low morale and were unwilling to fight. The Draconid youth was also unwilling to fight. The most important thing for him now was to save the big guy. Time was tight. He had to race against time. Perhaps if he delayed for a few minutes, it was very likely that because of this delay, he would have to watch the big guy die. Justice. Pirates? The Silver Hook raised his binoculars and saw the pirate flag on the Justice ship. He sneered, "What a joke. Since when can pirates call themselves Justice?" His first mate stood beside him and also looked at the Justice pirates. He sneered in disdain. Ever since the pirate throne appeared, there have been newbies becoming pirates everywhere. Any random Tom, Dick, and Harry can really appear. The ship is not bad. Go do it as usual. The Silverhook looked at it for a while and lost interest. He put away his binoculars and walked back to his captain's room. The first mate took his place and shouted, "Just as pirates. We are the Silverhook pirates. Now we order you to stop immediately and accept our inspection. As long as you are obedient, you may be able to keep your life." As soon as the first mate finished speaking, the Silverhook pirates opened their cannons, revealing a dense array of cannons. The number of cannons had already exceeded 100, and most of them were bronze-grade alchemy cannons. Once they were fired, the ferocity of their firepower could be imagined. "Inspection?" The Draconid youth promptly replied. "Anyone can see that we're not even open for business. Are you trying to trick us into stopping and waiting to be captured? How could Silverhook's group be so arrogant? Do you really think everyone else is a fool?" The first mate's expression was cold. "I've already given you a chance. It's up to you to believe it or not. Before you, we had already inspected 5 or 6 waves of ships. I'm warning you one last time. If you don't stop the ship, we'll open fire." The Draconid youth laughed out loud. "It seems that there really are fools who listen to you. So, you added a few more ships? The sea is vast. Since we've run into each other, let's fight." After that, the Draconid youth immediately ordered, and the 3 ships of the Justice Pirates opened their cannons at the same time, stretching out large and small cannons. The first mate was stunned for a moment before he flew into a rage. The small pirates in front of him dared to die rather than surrender, then let them taste the horror of artillery. But in the next moment, not only the first mate, even Silverhook, who had turned back to the captain's room, was shocked, because Junjin and the others had activated their Do Chi, revealing their true aura. The Silver Draconid Youth. The Silver Beastman, Zongu. The Silver Rat Swordsman was covered in dust. The Silver Bard Flute. Just 3 ships, and the small Justice Pirates actually had 4 Silver Warriors. The Silver Hook Pirates only had 4 Silver Rank Transcendents. The perception of life, aura, had a certain range. At this moment, the Justice Pirates had slightly changed their course, slanting forward, while the Silver Hook Pirates were blocking them with all their might. The distance between the 2 sides was long. Although it was rapidly shortening, their perception was not clear. Now, the Draconid Youth had taken the lead to activate his Do Chi, causing his life aura to flourish. This caused the attitude of Silver Hook's group to change greatly. Just as pirates, Silver Hook walked back to his original position and spoke personally. "I recognize your strength. Stop the ship. Accept our inspection. By doing so, you can gain a powerful friend. Otherwise, Silver Hook, will destroy you right now." Silver Hook swept away his disdainful attitude and became very cautious, but he was still unyielding. He also had 4 silver transcendents beside him, and one of them was even a mage. At the same time, he had more pirate ships than the Justice Pirates. He had a clear advantage in terms of strength. The Draconid Youth frowned. "Dragon Master, it is not wise to start a war with Silver Hook." Little Bird could not help but advise. "The enemy is strong and we are weak," Zone Goose said concisely. "Pirates will not rashly start a war with each other. Silver Hook is also afraid of us. He is worried that if we start a war, his losses will be great. The other side is indeed a veteran pirate group. Taking the initiative to lower your head is not a shameful thing." Flute spoke. Song Su whispered to the Draconid Youth. "The big guy situation is very bad. We need to buy time. It is not good to start a war with them now. Since they want to inspect, then let them inspect. We do not have anything valuable on our ship." The Draconid Youth nodded and replied to Silver Hook, "Since you do not believe me, then send someone to inspect the ship." Silver Hook's face sunk. "No, you have to stop the ship first." The faces of the Justice Pirates changed slightly. The Draconid Youth sneered. "I managed to test it out. You really want to trick me? Little ones, Silver Hook wants to scheme against us. He wants to destroy us from the start. Turn the rudder and sail with all your might. If we cannot shake them off, then we will fight to the death." "Oh!" The pirates on the 3 ships all shouted in response to their captain's words. "Damn it, Silver Hook gritted his teeth. Chase after them. Do not let any ship go. The chief officer was worried. Sir, if I am not wrong, that is the rapid flow. Flute has joined the Justice Pirates. With our position and speed, even if we catch up to them, we will be very close to the Empire's coastline. At the same time, the rapid flow. It will be very difficult for us to intercept them. Silver Hook frowned and roared at the chief officer. Then tell me what to do. The chief officer lowered his head. He did not have any good ideas. At this time, a voice sounded, "Let me do it." The chief officer's face was filled with surprise. Silver Hook was stunned. Big brother, you should rest. The person who appeared was Gold Hook, a gold fighter. Everyone in the Justice Pirates, listen well. I'm Gold Hook. We are all pirates. As long as you give me half of the harvest, I will let you go. Gold Hook's voice was low, but it clearly covered the entire sea. Gold Hook! The members of the Justice Pirates were shocked. Didn't this gold-ranked expert stay on Treasure Island all year round? Why was he on Silver Hook's ship? This is bad. Gold Fighter, we are finished. There is no need to offend the dignity of the Gold and Silver Brothers. There's a saying in the east of the Empire, a man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. The Draconid youth's face was grave. Gold Hook, can't you see our waterline? We have no harvest at all. Gold Hook sneered. Most of the time, the value of property is not reflected in its weight, isn't it? Stop sailing. Stop the ship and accept the inspection. You have a certain amount of strength and can plunder in this sea. But every time you meet us, you have to hand over half of your belongings. This is the rule. The Draconid youth was silent for a moment. Then we welcome you to board the ship for inspection. But you want us to stop the ship? That is impossible. The reason why we quickly sailed here is because we have more urgent matters to attend to. Gold Hook narrowed his eyes. The Draconid youth's determination made his killing intent surge. I will give you a few seconds to consider. 3, 2. Before Gold Hook could count to 1, he heard the Draconid youth shout, "Fire!" Bang, bang, bang. White fog rose from the 3 ships of the Justice Pirates at the same time. Then, the cannonballs formed a sparse barrage that directly covered the Gold and Silver Brothers' pirate ship. The pirates were caught off guard and howled in pain. Countless pieces of wood flew from the ship that was hit. The Gold and Silver Brothers were stunned for a moment and immediately became furious. This damned new pirate group actually dared to take the initiative to attack, acting recklessly. Chapter 263. Fire the cannons, fire the cannons. Everyone fire the cannons for me. The offended Silver Hook roared. After suffering a round of bombardment from the Justice Pirates, the Gold and Silver Brothers quickly launched a counterattack. The 16 pirate ships turned their rudders slightly, trying to aim the side of the ship at the Justice Pirates. As for the bow of the ship, they rotated the muzzle position. Bang, bang, bang. A series of white mist rose, and hundreds of cannonballs flew into the air one after another. The cannonballs penetrated the air and whistled together, like a rainstorm, bombarding the Justice Pirates. Dodge the cannonballs! The pirates of the Justice Pirates quickly looked for cover and tried their best to dodge. Boom, boom, boom. Most of the cannonballs bombarded the sea, stirring up a column of water into the sky. A small portion of the cannonballs hit the hull of the ship. Some created a hole in the side of the ship. Some landed on the deck and exploded, sending shrapnel flying everywhere. There were also some that exploded in midair, turning into a rain of acid that corroded the sails. Some of the unfortunate pirates were blown into pieces on the spot. Some screamed as they were corroded by the acid rain, and some fell into the sea. Everything pointed to disaster. On the Little Bird, Baya's ears were buzzing. He shook his head with all his might before standing up from the pile of broken wood. Looking closely, Baya found that the cannon he was operating had been deformed by a solid cannonball and could no longer be used. Of the pirates he worked with, only one survived. Scattered flesh and blood, the pungent smell of gunpowder smoke, and a faint pain on his cheek. Baya stabilized his staggering body and tried to touch his cheek with his hand. Hiss! He took a deep breath, and the pain suddenly intensified. He carefully tested with his hand and finally reluctantly pulled out a piece of wood slightly smaller than his little finger from his cheek. The piece of wood was stuck in the flesh below the young man's cheekbone. Baya pulled out the splinter and quickly took out the wound medicine from his arms. He held a small piece of powder in his trembling hand and then rubbed it on the wound on his cheek. Although the medicine produced by the Empire was ordinary, it was still very effective, and Baya's face immediately stopped bleeding. After this buffer, Baya's hearing gradually recovered. The buzzing sound from before faded away, and he heard the screams around him. He heard the pirates shouting, "Get up! Get up! Load the cannonballs and return fire! Return fire!" Baya gritted his teeth and hurriedly dragged his body to the nearest cannon. A pirate had been sacrificed at this cannon position, and the rest were urgently reloading shells. Baya immediately filled in the gap. Similar scenes kept happening on the 3 pirate ships of the Justice Pirates. The Gold and Silver Brothers had many ships, and their number of cannons far exceeded that of the Justice Pirates. In just one round of confrontation, the Justice Pirates fell into an absolute disadvantage. However, the Gold and Silver Pirates were even more anxious. The 3 ships of the Justice Pirates still haven't slowed down, and the wind is in the favor of the Dragonborn boy and others. If this continues, the distance between the 2 sides will widen, and the Gold and Silver Pirates can only watch the Justice Pirates escape. At the crucial moment, the only silver sorcerer of the Gold and Silver Pirates made his move. Wind spell, Gale Blast. After accumulating power for a while, the silver sorcerer successfully cast the spell. The Justice Pirates were originally following the wind, but now the wind suddenly changed direction, and the 3 ships' speed dropped to the bottom. On the other hand, the Gold and Silver Pirates' fleet had half of the wind, and their speed increased. "Well done!" Silverhook was overjoyed. The silver sorcerer smiled proudly and focused on maintaining the gale, his magic power dropping rapidly. "We have to get rid of the opponent's sorcerer." Zhong Ji's face was serious. When the war started, it was common sense to first get rid of the opponent's extraordinaire. A sorcerer had more means than a fighter, and what was more terrifying was that the opponent's sorcerer had reached the silver level. His existence was a high threat to the Justice Pirates. However, Gold Hook didn't show any signs of making a move. He was sitting on the silver hook, guarding beside the silver magician, waiting for the enemy to walk right into his trap, waiting for the rabbit to fall into his trap. If he charged at the front, the Dragonborn boy and his gang might have a chance, but with this defensive posture, the Justice Pirates couldn't see any chance at all. Another round of cannons. Although the Justice Pirates' cannons were sharp, their average level was higher than the Gold and Silver Pirates. The latter had many ordinary cannons, and some cannons didn't have firing pins, but rather a backward firing device. However, the Gold and Silver Pirates' cannons far exceeded the Justice Pirates. The quantitative change had led to a qualitative change. The Justice Pirates were gradually beaten to the point where they couldn't raise their heads. The Justice ship was a black iron-level magic ship, and its defense was quite good, so it was still in good condition. However, the Rapids and Little Bird were in a worrying situation, especially since Little Bird was just an ordinary ship. Its hull was full of holes, and the inside of the ship was leaking. The Dragonborn boy hurriedly ordered, and the fleet adjusted their formation. The Justice ship was at the front, while the Rapids and Little Bird hid to the side. As a result, the pressure on the Justice ship increased. As the distance between the 2 sides increased, more cannons landed on the deck. The Dragonborn boy, covered in ash, defended with all his might and missed more and more cannons. On the cannon deck, Little Bird pulled the rope hard, and the cannon fired. The cannons whistled out and hit the enemy's mast, breaking it. The enemy was flustered. "Well done, little girl." Little Bird excitedly patted the cannon's butt. The Dragonborn boy had restocked 4 silver-level cannons from the Empire, and Little Bird fired them all. His cannons were the best in the Justice Pirates, and Little Bird's achievements were extraordinary. "Captain, we're done here," the pirates shouted. The way they looked at the Little Bird was filled with admiration. In the process of being suppressed by the enemy's cannons, Little Bird became the pillar of the pirates' morale. Every cannonball he fired could cause heavy damage to the enemy and greatly stabilize their morale. Little Bird hurried over. This feeling is really good. His face was full of excitement, and he enjoyed the gazes of the pirates around him. The only pity is that I can only use 2 cannons. If I could fire all 4 silver-level cannons continuously, it would feel great. The 4 silver-level cannons were arranged on both sides of the ship. Because only one side of the ship was facing the enemy, the cannons on the other side could only be temporarily left empty. Little Bird excitedly came to the other cannon position. He affectionately stroked the cannon's tail and adjusted the direction of the cannon's muzzle. He was only at the black iron level, and the cannon he controlled was at the silver level. But it didn't matter. He didn't need Little Bird to instill his chi. The mana reserve of the Justice ship's mana pool was very high, and after Little Bird finished adjusting, the mana in the mana pool was immediately transferred over. However, just as Little Bird was about to fire, his heart suddenly twitched, and the strong throbbing made his expression change. Find cover. Little Bird had rich battle experience and immediately understood the throbbing heart, and with a roll, he went behind the pillars of each cannon position. The next second, an ordinary cold arrow, mixed in the rain of cannonballs, shot into the cannon position. Boom! The cold arrow exploded, and the silver chi exploded, killing all the pirates on the cannon position. The silver-level cannons here were destroyed on the spot. Little Bird was lucky to escape, and after fear was anger. Damn it, I'm being targeted. He roared, and suddenly stood up with his head held high. But when he reached the cannon position, which had a huge hole in it, he immediately lay on the ground and peeped out with shifty eyes. There were many enemy ships, and there were many people on the ships, so Little Bird couldn't find the person who shot the arrow. It doesn't matter. This is obviously the work of a silver-level warrior. I'll wait for you. He half-knelt on the ground, hiding his body, and then took out the holy rune of luck and began to pray. On the sea, the distance between the Justice Pirates and the Gold and Silver Brothers was quickly shortening. The former leaned to the northwest, while the latter intercepted from the northeast. The silver-level mage had been maintaining the gale, and the Gold and Silver Brothers were personally guarding him. Magic Scroll, Windless Domain. In the captain's room of the Justice ship, Song Su had been preparing for a long time, and finally succeeded in casting this wind-type spell. He was a necromancer, and if he acted alone, his necromancy spell would greatly reduce the morale of both the enemy and himself and expose his identity. But with the use of Magic Scroll, he could cast spells of other types. The difference between him and the silver-level wind mage was that using a Magic Scroll, Song Su consumed more mana, and the duration was longer, and the effect was weaker. After all, Song Su's mana was not of the wind attribute. The windless domain enveloped a large area, and the 3 ships of the Justice Pirates were in it. This spell had been used by the Sea Snake Lady to deal with the Draconid Youth and others, but now it was helping them. The gale whistled, and after entering the windless domain, the wind suddenly decreased. The 3 ships of the Justice Pirates seemed to have gotten rid of a heavy burden, and their speed increased by a large margin. Song Su panted. This was a silver-level magic scroll, and the mana requirement was very heavy for a black iron level. This scroll gradually turned into ashes in Song Su's hands, and Song Su raced against time to rest. He took out a magic potion and drank the light blue potion in one gulp. As the potion took effect, the mana in his body began to recover rapidly. The appearance of the windless domain surprised the Gold and Silver Brothers. The other side also has a mage. Don't worry, it's only black iron level. Although they used a silver level scroll, there's still no match for us. The mage of the Gold and Silver Pirates was a silver level wind mage, and the wind type spells he was best at were very powerful. Song Su, who was only at the black iron level and used a silver level scroll, could not offset it. But the members of the Gold and Silver Pirates were not complacent for long, because in the next moment, the bow of the Justice Pirates lit up with a faint light. The bow of the ship was like an angel, his face solemn, his hands clenched in front of his chest, and his head bowed in prayer. The wide wings on his back almost covered his entire body, giving people a strong sense of security. It was the bow of the Angel of Tranquility that the Draconid youth had bought from the Empire after listening to Lon Zeos' advice during the recent break. The function of this statue was to calm the storm and bring peace and tranquility. It was also a silver-level magic tool. Chapter 264. The mana pool of the righteous ship was continuously filled with magical energy. The faint glow of the ship's bow covered a large area of the sea around it. The area was even wider than the windless domain. This time, the wind that was blowing towards them was completely ineffective. Destroy it. The silver mage who was maintaining the magic roared, flustered and exasperated. Let me do it. A one-eyed archer on another ship responded loudly. This was a young man. His sharp, long ears indicated his identity, an elf. He drew his bow and readied it, the aura of a silver mage overflowing. His battle energy was madly injected. The next moment, he gently let go and the arrow flew out, drawing a beautiful silver rainbow in the air. The silver rainbow shot almost straight towards the Angel of Tranquility statue. The Draconid youth snorted coldly and used his talent spell, Dragon Roar, to target the arrow. But after the silver rainbow was hit by the Dragon Roar, it suddenly exploded, the silver light dissipating by half, revealing the hazy arrow itself. The flying arrow was still shooting towards the Angel of Tranquility statue. The Draconid youth's expression changed slightly. At the critical moment, the Draconid youth stepped forward bravely. Battle technique, shocking ash. The next moment, the gray shadow of the rapier flew out and hit the light silver arrow. The Draconid youth's expression had just become smug when the flying arrow suddenly disintegrated. Countless thin needles poured down like a storm, indiscriminately shooting in all directions. The Draconid youth hurriedly retreated, rolling on the deck to avoid the needles. After the rain of needles, the Draconid youth stood up in a sorry state. There were many thin needles stuck in his body. The battle energy in his body was in a state of chaos. The Draconid youth hurriedly pulled out the needles in his body and began to use all his strength to suppress the battle energy in his body that was about to go berserk. In a short period of time, he was unable to participate in the battle. The Draconid youth, Zhonggu, and Songsu's expressions all changed. The opponent not only had a silver mage, but one of them was a silver warrior who was an expert in archery. The arrow just now was obviously a powerful battle technique. At the same time, the alchemy arrow with the help of a silver mage displayed an incomparably powerful attack. Although the righteous pirates temporarily protected the Angel of Tranquility statue, they made the Draconid youth temporarily unable to participate in the battle. What a pity! In the gold and silver pirates, the young one-eyed elf archer weakly lowered the bow in his hand. The arrow just now had consumed a lot of his battle energy and mental strength, causing him to fall into a state of depression. Boom! At this moment, a silver shell shot out from the ship of justice. The cannonball was shrouded in rainbow light, and its target was the one-eyed elf. The alarm bells in the one-eyed elf's heart rang loudly, but he had a tough temperament and didn't dodge. He sneered and forced himself to raise his bow again. However, just as he was about to shoot an arrow to stop the cannonball, the silver-ranked warrior on the other ship had already made his move and deflected the cannonball. The one-eyed elf looked at the cannonball that had changed direction and heaved a sigh of relief. He put down his bow again, but the next moment, a solid shell from the pirate ship accidentally hit the enemy's silver-grade bullet. The enemy's bullets changed direction again. The one-eyed elf's body tensed up, and he raised his bow again. However, he immediately discovered that the enemy's bullet had rushed past the left side of his ship and drilled into the cannon of another pirate ship. The one-eyed elf lowered his bow. Boom! The power of the explosion was shockingly great. The huge shockwave created a huge wave, and the one-eyed elf's ship tilted heavily. The one-eyed sprite looked up at the sky. The waves of water came crashing down, nearly blotting out the sky. The seawater crashed onto the deck of the one-eyed elf's ship. The one-eyed elf and the pirates on the deck were completely drenched. However, no one cared about this. The pirates who lived in the sea all year round had long been used to being wet. However, after the waves passed and the pirates regained their vision, they screamed crazily. "Turn the rudder! Turn the rudder! Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Have we been shot at the gunpowder magazine? Damn it!" The pirate ship that had been bombarded by the silver-gray cannonball was burning with flames and emitting thick black smoke. It was completely out of control. As it sank, it charged toward the one-eyed elf's ship. The one-eyed elf's ship couldn't dodge in time and was hit by the pirate ship on its side. The main mast of the pirate ship that had crashed into the one-eyed elf's ship toppled down and smashed onto the deck, almost hitting the one-eyed elf. The one-eyed elf raised his bow in vain, speechless. This time, the speed of his pirate ship was greatly reduced, and it was quickly left behind by the other ships that were sailing rapidly. In the Justice ship, Birdie punched the deck with hatred. The cannonball just now was from him. Now he was completely exhausted. His black iron dough chi was almost exhausted, and the lucky holy rune was dim. To make the cannonball receive the blessing of the lucky holy rune, Birdie had to use his own dough chi as a medium. Now, he was unable to fight anymore. It was still too difficult for him to kill a silver-grade warrior. The one-eyed elf was not an ordinary silver-grade warrior, and in this process, there were other silver-grade warriors who helped. Birdie's attack was able to sink an enemy ship and drag down the one-eyed elf's ship. It was already a great achievement. On the sea, the gold and silver pirates were approaching the Draconid youth. Obviously, the gold and silver pirates wanted to launch a boarding battle and completely stop the Justice pirates. And the Justice pirates knew that the enemy was strong. Since the start of the battle, they had the idea of retreating. All the cannonballs and spells were to delay the enemy's pursuit. The gold and silver pirates landed 2 pirate ships that had collided. The remaining 14 pirate ships rushed into the sea area affected by the Angel of Tranquility statue. Then, they entered the windless domain. The gold and silver pirate speed was greatly reduced. They needed to get rid of the windless domain. But their silver-grade mage was in an awkward situation. He had to maintain the Gale Blast spell at all times. His mind was anxious, and it was very difficult to use a second spell at the same time. It was beyond his ability. And if he stopped the Gale Blast spell, the Justice pirates would not be affected by the wind, and their speed would soar, shaking off the gold and silver brothers. On the Justice ship, Song Su, who did not need to maintain the windless domain, was ready. "We can shake them off." Zongu secretly clenched his fists. If this continued, there was hope. At the critical moment, Goldhook took a deep breath and took a step forward. "Big brother," Ingo Z shouted. Gold dough chi gushed out of Goldhook's body. He slowly extended his hand toward his back and grabbed the weapon on his back, a bamboo fishing rod. The next moment, he suddenly swung his right arm in front of his chest, and the bamboo fishing rod slashed vertically down. At the same time, the fishing line shot out as if it was stretched infinitely. The hook was imbued with gold dough chi and rapidly expanded. Song Su and the Draconid youth tried to stop it, but the golden hook was unstoppable, and after a clang, it hooked onto the bottom of the main mast of the Justice ship. Dochi, fishing hook. Gold Hook stood firmly on the spot, holding the fishing rod tightly with both hands. The muscles on his arms bulged, and in an instant, they expanded greatly. He let out a low roar and immediately pulled the fishing rod behind him. The Justice ship was suddenly hit by an unimaginable force, and its speed plummeted. The entire ship tilted along with the fishing line. The Draconid youth, Song Su, and the others all attacked the hook and the fishing line, but the gold dough chi blocked all kinds of attacks. This is a saint-level weapon. The Draconid youth's heart sank. The Draconid youth and his crew could not do anything to the holy weapon combined with the gold dough chi. They could only watch as the Justice ship was greatly slowed down, while the silver hook followed the fishing line and sped up. The morale of the pirates on the Justice ship plummeted, and a chill rose from the bottom of their hearts. "Oh no, it's Gold Hook. We're doomed. I feel like a fish that has been hooked, and there's no hope of escaping. Goldhook was indeed a gold-level fighter, and the moment he made a move, it was extraordinary. The Draconid youth and his crew's attempt to escape was completely destroyed. They could only watch as the Silverhook broke away from the main group and charged out of the heavy waves, crashing into the Justice ship. The distance between them was even closer. Both sides did not need binoculars and could clearly see each other's faces. Flying Hook team, move out. Silverhook saw the opportunity and ordered. More than 20 elite combat teams popped their heads out from the side of the ship. Each of them had a rope wrapped around their waist, and one end of the rope was equipped with a hook. It was the famous Flying Hook team of the Gold-Silver brothers. Hearing Silverhook's order, the Flying Hook team shouted in unison and took off the hooks at their waist, spinning their claws at the side of their bodies. Then they loosened their fingers, and more than 20 hooks rose into the air together. In the air, their ropes continued to stretch, spanning a distance of hundreds of meters, and directly hooked onto the Justice ship. Some hooks hooked onto the side of the ship, some wrapped around the mast, and some clung onto the windows. We got it. The enemy can't escape. Pull together. The Gold-Silver brothers pirates were stunned. Oh ho ho pull. Oh ho pull again. Accompanied by a loud chant, the Flying Hook team used their strength together and tightly connected the two ships together. Seeing this, Goldhook stopped his fighting technique. The fishing line was as nimble as a snake and quickly retracted. The pirates on the Justice ship wanted to destroy the hooks of the Flying Hook team, but their efforts were futile. They found that these hooks were all tightly fastened to the ship's hull, and through the expansion and contraction of their do-chi, they strengthened the hooks and firmly held onto the Justice ship. The Draconid youth also found something strange. These people's breathing is completely the same, and their do-chi is as if they are the same person. This is a type of combined fighting technique. The Flying Hook team had more than 20 people, and their cultivation was at least bronze level, and the leader was even black iron level. They used combined fighting techniques, and the 20 of them were as if they were one. If they wanted to deal with them, they would have to deal with these 20 people at the same time. Sir Dragon, what should we do? The pirates were at a loss, and they all looked at the Draconid youth for help. Under everyone's gaze, the Draconid youth gave an inconceivable order. He ordered the Torrent to quickly leave the fleet and immediately head to White Wing Harbor. Before they received a new order, they had to escape with all their might. Escaping from this battlefield was the greatest merit. What? Not only the other pirates, but even the captain of the Torrent, Flute, was stunned. Chapter 265. Do as I say. The Draconid youth's expression was cold as he roared at Flute, then turned around and ordered the Justice pirates, "Boys, turn the rudder and set sail at full speed. Our target is the Silverhook. Let us ram them to death." Dragon Master? The pirates were shocked, and the pirates who occupied the key positions were mostly their own people from Confusion Island. After some hesitation, they chose to listen to the Draconid youth's orders. And so, the Justice changed its course and charged straight at the Silverhook. All the pirates on the Silverhook were stunned. They had never seen such a fierce opponent to actually choose to ram into them. At this moment, the Draconid youth's aura suppressed them. They panicked. "Quick, quick, stop!" Silverhook quickly ordered. The Flying Hook team quickly stopped. If they continued to pull, they would be helping the enemy ship ram into them. They had never encountered such a situation before. Most of the time, the enemy ships would flee in panic after being caught by the Flying Hook. Many of the ships' morale collapsed, and many of them knelt down and surrendered. There were also enemy ships that wanted to fight to the death after realizing that they were hooked and could not escape. But the Justice was different. This was a black iron magic-powered ship. If it really crashed into them, the Silverhook would definitely be dragged into the water. "Brother." Silverhook looked at his brother. Goldhook's expression was still calm, as if he was thinking. A few seconds later, he gave the order. Half of the gold and silver pirates' ships, including the Silverhook, went to deal with the Justice and Little Bird. The other half of the ships which were faster pirate ships, were led by Gold Hook himself to chase after the rapid. The enemy ship is fleeing at full speed. There must be a treasure hidden. Capture it. This is a cunning prey. Gold Hook's voice spread throughout the fleet. Oh! The pirates responded in unison and aggressively chased after the rapid. Seeing Gold Hook move out personally, and with such a large group of people, the Justice pirates were surprised. Song Su and Zhong Gu were deep in thought. Flute began to flee. Though the bard did not understand the Draconid youth's intentions for issuing such an order, he was still secretly delighted. After all, he had signed a contract with the Draconid youth and could not back down at the last minute. Who would have thought that the dragon server would give such an order? The snickering in Lu's stomach didn't last long. His eyes almost popped out. My God! He saw Golden Hook personally leading the pirates, abandoning the Justice, and leading half of the pirates to attack him. Flute's face was filled with shock. Why are you looking for me? Could it be that you and I have an irreconcilable feud? Don't look for me. I'm just a nobody. The dragon's suit is my captain. Why are you looking for me? Flute roared powerlessly in his heart. Then, he heard Golden Hook shouting to his subordinates. The flute quivered. Could it be that there's really a treasure hidden on my ship? Is that why the captain of the dragon's suit gave such an order? The dragon's suit captain tricked me. The pressure on the leaky flute was immense. It was as if he was fighting against a gold ranker and half of the enemy's ship by himself. Flute was so anxious that his face turned pale. He pulled the helmsman away and personally steered the ship. Activate the rapid current device. He immediately ordered loudly. The rapid current had magic equipment that could stimulate rapid currents and accelerate the ship. Now that it was used, the ship's speed instantly increased. You can't run. Golden Hook sneered and led the fleet to chase after him. He looked like he would not give up. The battlefield was thus split into two halves. On the other side, the Justice was flying towards the Silverhook. If it really hit, the Justice's newly purchased Angel of Tranquility would definitely be smashed. Both ships' bows would probably be destroyed. What awaited them would be sinking on the spot. Stop it, mage, stop it quickly. Silverhook shouted anxiously. He didn't want to see his ship being dragged down by the enemy. It wasn't that he lacked the courage to fight with his life on the line, but that his side had a huge advantage. The enemy wanted to fight with their life on the line, but they didn't have to. The Silver Magician was still maintaining Gale Strike to restrict the speed of the torrent from afar. After receiving Silverhook's order, the mage had no choice but to stop the spell and take out a magic scroll. Magic scroll, Extreme Frost. Cold air surged wildly and spread across the sea between the two ships. Gotcha! The sea water was still flowing a second ago, but in the next second, it had already frozen into ice. The cold air spread rapidly and turned the nearby sea surface into a temporary glacier. Both the Justice and the Silverhook were covered in silver frost. Although the Justice's momentum was strong, it was restricted by the ice and its speed quickly decreased. In the end, it was only a dozen steps away from the Silverhook before it regretfully stopped on the ice. Charge with me. The Draconid youth roared and jumped onto the deck of the Silverhook. He recovered from the dust and followed closely behind. Behind them, Lonzeo and the others boarded the wooden planks to form a temporary bridge and attacked the Silverhook in groups. Sandow, you're in charge of the little bird. Everyone else, follow me. Zhonggu ordered and jumped onto the ice from the deck of the little bird. Sir, Sandow wanted to follow Zhonggu, but was stopped by Zhongji's stern gaze. No way. Are we really going to attack the Silverhook? Suma was scared out of his wits. It was better being the little bird. He could still escape. Now that they were charging towards the enemy's ship, there was no other way out unless they occupied the ship. But there was no other way. Suma knew that if he wanted to escape, Zhongji's two-handed sword would greet his neck at the slightest sign. Lion Flag, Captain tricked me. My God, please protect me and let me survive this battle. Suma lamented as he followed Zhonggu and charged towards the Silverhook. The Draconid youth jumped onto the Silverhook with a loud roar. The deck of the Silverhook was very crowded. Before the Draconid youth could stabilize himself, 4 extraordinaires attacked him together. The Draconid youth breathed out hot air from his dragon nose as he swept his claws in front of him. Screams of agony rang out in the next moment. The extraordinaires were all thrown back. Some fell to the ground, some knocked down the other pirates as well. The black iron-level pirates were lucky enough to survive, but their abdomens were almost cut off by the dragon claws, while the bronze-level pirates died on the spot. Their attacks also hit the Draconid youth, but they were all blocked by the dragon scales. Although the dragon scales given by the legend bloodline were only silver level due to the youth's cultivation, it was still not something these extraordinaires could break through. Relying on the dragon scales, the youth rampaged on the Silverhook. He took the initiative to attack the famous Flying Hook team. The leaders of the Flying Hook team all went up to block him. The Flying Hooks shot out in all directions, wanting to hook onto the Draconid youth. The Draconid youth suddenly bent his body, almost running with both feet. Bang, bang, bang. His dragon claws and feet firmly stepped on the deck. Explosive chi burst out in intervals, creating small explosions. The explosions pushed his body, making him like a cannonball, constantly charging in a zigzag pattern. The Flying Hooks could not even hook onto his shadow, but instead hooked onto his pirate companions. The Draconid youth knocked the irksome pirates away. No matter how strong the normal pirates were, they would be instantly killed by him. After a few teleportations, the Draconid youth stepped on the side of the ship, almost sticking to the deck, like a vicious dragon pouncing on its prey, killing his way to the back of the Flying Hook team. The bronze-level elite Flying Hook team resisted with all their might. The Draconid youth waved his dragon claws. Imbued with chi, his attacks were extremely sharp. The dragon claws cut through the Flying Hook pirates' chests as easily as a hot knife cutting through butter. The dragon claws grabbed with force, directly crushing the pirate's head. Warm brain matter and blood splashed all over the Draconid youth's face. Stop! The black iron-level leader hurriedly rushed back. The Draconid youth turned back to fight. After a round of exchanges, the leaders were all sent flying, and when the black iron-level Flying Hook team leader fell on the deck forever. Come and fight me. A silver-level fighter with a sailor's scimitar jumped over from a nearby pirate ship, wanting to stop the Draconid youth's massacre. Your opponent is me. A gray figure stepped forward, using the rapier in his hand to stop this person. I want you to die. Seeing the Flying Hook team that he had painstakingly nurtured being massacred like this, Silverhook was so angry that his eyes turned red, and he rushed over with a biting, cold, killing intent. His weapon was also a fishing rod, emitting a bronze luster. It was a gold-level weapon. The fishing rod was like a spear, stabbing straight at the Draconid youth's face. The Draconid youth bent his knees, squatting down slightly. Chi burst out from the soles of his feet, and with a bang, a mini explosion, his body shot backwards, quickly increasing the distance between him and Silverhook. Silverhook chased after him closely. The Draconid youth had no intention of fighting with him, and retreated as he fought. Silverhook's subordinates shouted, wanting to help their captain, and all of them tried to stop the Draconid youth. Against these ignorant fellows, the Draconid youth satisfied their wish of seeking death. Silverhook did not expect this valiant-looking Draconid to be so sinister. He shouted angrily, "Come and fight me if you have the guts." Ever since the Draconid youth boarded the ship, he had been using lightning-fast methods to clear out the middle and lower elites of Silverhook, and the results were remarkable. He turned around and saw his own elites swarming onto the deck of Silverhook, easily stabilizing their footing because of his massacre, and turned around to charge at Silverhook. Silverhook did not expect the Draconid youth to suddenly become so valiant, and hurriedly responded, falling into a disadvantage because he was caught off guard. Fighting technique, shark entanglement. Ingo-Z roared in his heart, and suddenly burst out with a powerful do-chi. The chi flowed along his fishing rod weapon, and emerged from the tip of the rod, turning into dozens of light silver fishing lines. The Draconid youth dodged some of them, but there were too many fishing lines, and some of them still wrapped around his body, increasing the binding force rapidly. The Draconid youth immediately felt his movements being severely affected by the fishing lines condensed from chi, and his movements became distorted, and he began to lose both offense and defense. Silverhook's fighting technique was very unique and actually had the effect of controlling the enemy. If it was a normal silver fighter, he would have been severely immobilized and faced the danger of defeat. However, the Draconid youth relied on the mutation of his blood core, and his physique was far superior to normal silver fighters, like a humanoid dragon beast. Are all Draconids this strong? Silverhook secretly gritted his teeth, still feeling as if he had hooked a killer whale. And even if he gave it his all, he still had a sense of danger, as if the other party would escape the hook at any moment. Chapter 266. Fighting Technique. Shocking Gray. Gray Do Chi gushed out from his body as he waved the sword in his hand, creating a thin gray sword mark. His opponent brandished the pirate scimitar in his hand and also displayed a fighting technique. Boom! The blade light and the sword mark collided and exploded, creating a powerful shockwave. The shockwave sent the gray and silver fighters flying. Some of the unlucky pirates around were killed on the spot by the residual power of the fighting technique. The Silverhook's sails were close and were riddled with holes by the shockwave, before being torn apart by the shockwave. The Silverhook was the same as the Justice, a black iron fighter-class magic ship. But at this level, it was still unable to withstand the life and death battle of silver fighters. What was even more frightening was that it wasn't just the pair of gray and silver fighters who were fighting on the Silverhook. Silverhook's heart ached. Seeing this scene, he was filled with regret. If he knew this would happen, he would have taken the initiative to attack and set the battlefield on the Justice. Now that the other party had taken the initiative, Silverhook felt very uncomfortable. At this moment, he channeled all his fighting aura to maintain the fishing line. The fishing line was wrapped around the Dragon Youth's body. The Dragon Youth continued to toss and turn, using all his fighting aura. The explosive nature of the explosive fighting aura was of great help to him. The fishing line that was binding him was breaking apart one by one. But at the same time, Silverhook was adding more fishing lines to wrap around the Dragon Youth's body. The Dragon Youth's fighting aura and immense strength made Silverhook's heart heavy. This guy's strength is unimaginable. His dragon bloodline is definitely not simple. I'm using a gold-grade weapon. Ingo Z's brows were deeply furrowed, his expression grave. Up until now, he had confirmed that the Dragon Youth's fighting strength was quite strong. Although his cultivation had not reached the peak of silver, his fighting strength was already at the peak of silver. The main reason should be that his bloodline was exceptional, causing the Dragon Youth's attributes to be unbelievably high, especially his strength, endurance, and recovery. This is too slow. The Dragon Youth was dissatisfied. The battle between him and Silverhook was going in a good direction. But the Dragon Youth was a leader. His heart was filled with the entire battle situation. Now, Goldhook and the others had fallen for the Dragon Youth's trap and were attracted by the flute. This was the opportunity that the young Draconid had gambled on. He had to seize this opportunity and try his best to determine the local advantage. Only when he had enough advantage would he be able to face the gold-tier champion who had returned victorious. The young dragon's head suddenly flashed with a fierce look. Boom! In the next moment, his entire body exploded. The explosion was so loud that the others on the deck of the Silverhook could not help but glance over. As the smoke dispersed, the Draconid youth was covered in wounds and blood splattered on the deck beside him. Many of the dragon's scales on his body were shattered, revealing pieces of bloody flesh. The Draconid youth exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and shook his head slightly. Cracking sounds could be heard from his neck. That's much easier. Ha! He opened his mouth, revealing a mouth full of sharp, white dragon teeth. The fishing line on his body had completely disappeared. He's a madman. Seeing this scene, Ingo's pupils shrank. In order to break free from my control, he actually blew himself up. At this moment, the shadow of his life appeared in his mind. He thought of Yawu, that pirate who had challenged all the gold-tier fighters decades ago with his silver cultivation level. The Draconid youth violently broke free from the restraints on his body, causing Ingo to think of him. Ingo's aura immediately weakened. The Draconid youth's eyes flashed. He could clearly sense that his opponent's morale was dropping. Boom! The bottom of his feet exploded, creating a hole in the deck, and he shot towards Ingo like a cannonball. Ingo gritted his teeth. The Draconid youth's aura made him fearful. Seems like you're all the same, all madmen who like to fight. But I also have a reason not to retreat. Ingo mustered up his courage and did not dodge, but braced himself to face the Draconid youth head-on. Boom, boom, boom. Both sides clashed again, exchanging blows, punches, and kicks, fighting valiantly. The Draconid youth's attacks were ferocious and bloodthirsty, using offense as defense, often allowing the enemy's attacks to land on his body to hit Ingo. Ingo was hit continuously and was soon beaten black and blue. The dragon claws scratched his leather armor in many places, and the dragon fists caused his bones to hurt. This guy is too strong. Humans of the same level are no match for him. Ingo hurriedly retreated and defended with all his might, barely managing to withstand the Draconid youth's storm-like attacks. Gradually, Ingo stabilized his footing and gradually turned the situation around. This was not strange. Ingo's weapon was gold grade, not a normal sword or blade, but a fishing rod, which was very rare. His leather armor was at the silver level. He also had a wealth of fighting techniques, some of which were quite unique. And the Draconid youth did not have many fighting techniques to use. He had a flame explosion fighting technique and his explosive fighting technique, but he did not have the time to learn it. He did have some innate skills, such as Dragon Aura, Dragon Roar, and Scorching Dragon Breath. But in such a fast-paced switching between offense and defense, he basically could not use Dragon Breath, as Ingo would not give him a chance. Ingo still had magic accessories on him, so Dragon Roar and Dragon Aura had little effect. In fact, the Draconid youth tried his best not to use Dragon Aura. After all, the deck of Ingo was already filled with enemies, and it was hard to differentiate. After fighting for a while, Ingo gained the upper hand. A translucent and extremely sharp fishing line suddenly flashed past. The Draconid youth's heart skipped a beat. He leaned back and dodged with all his might. But the fishing line still cut him, cutting off a piece of flesh on his right shoulder. Because of the explosion, the youth's body was not completely covered in dragon scales, and his defense was not at its peak. Ha ha ha! Ingo laughed. Do you know what this fighting technique is called? It's called scale removal. This move suits you. Ingo's momentum from before had returned, because he found the best tactic to deal with the Draconid youth, and that was to maintain a certain distance from him. His fishing rod was a long weapon, and together with the fishing line, his attack range was very large. Most importantly, the Draconid youth had a weakness. The youth lacked long-range fighting techniques. Seriously lacking. So, in the middle of the battle, the Draconid youth's attacks were weak, and Ingo had the absolute advantage. The youth snorted in his heart. He had discovered this weakness long ago, which was why he was interested in a fighting technique like Dragon Claw. The Draconid youth charged at Ingo, who quickly retreated, trying his best to maintain a distance. Although the deck of Ingo was crowded, his fishing line could hook onto the crossbar, helping him to fly around. He also had a flying fighting technique, and a long weapon allowed him to attack the Draconid youth. Ingo displayed his cunning nature, and no matter how fierce the Draconid youth was, if he could not get close, he would not be a threat to Ingo. The Draconid youth charged at Ingo again. Ingo swung his fishing line, hooking onto the main mast, and swung over gracefully, easily dodging the Draconid youth's attack. Ha ha ha, it's useless. Ha ha. Ugh. Ingo laughed proudly, but the next moment, his laughter stopped abruptly, like a duck that had its throat grabbed, because he saw the Draconid youth suddenly turn around and charge at the Silver Magician. The Silver Magician had been hiding in the captain's cabin on the aft of the ship, ever since he cast the ice magic, using magic to search for Ashbeard. "I've finally found you." The silver magician who was maintaining the detection spell laughed coldly, and then split a bit of his attention, at the same time using his fingertips to gently stroke the emerald ring on his right thumb 3 times. The next moment, the emerald ring emitted a bright green light. The green light dissipated, and a faintly discernible wind elemental appeared in front of the silver magician. This wind elemental was not normal. It was like a 5 or 6-year-old child, its eyes sharp and cold. This was a wind elemental magic pet that the silver magician had carefully nurtured. Through special methods, he had nurtured this wind elemental into a sharp assassin. "Go kill this person." The silver magician ordered the wind elemental assassin in his mind. Although the wind elemental assassin was only at the black iron rank, it had too much of an advantage against a black iron rank mage. The silver magician was very confident because he had used the wind elemental assassin to successfully assassinate many bronze and black iron rank mages. The wind elemental assassin nodded to its master, and its figure gradually disappeared. It was about to leave. Boom! A crimson figure was like a cannonball, directly smashing into the captain's cabin. Amidst the countless broken shipboards and wood shavings, the draconid young man charged in front of the silver magician. The silver magician was extremely shocked and roared in his mind, "Silver Hook, what are you doing?" Silver Hook was furious and was chasing the draconid young man. He wanted to maintain a distance from the young man, but the draconid young man suddenly changed his target and attacked the enemy's vital point, causing Silver Hook to be caught off guard and could only chase madly. TCH. The wind elemental assassin let out a sharp cry and counterattacked the draconid young man. The magic contract stipulated that it had to protect its master. The draconid young man's eyes were fixed on the silver magician, and with a wave of his claws, the wind elemental assassin was swept away by the dragon claw and directly cut into several pieces. The silver magician's face was pale. He was only a few steps away from the draconid young man, but he could already feel the other party's intense blood and heat. Bang! The dragon claw attacked the silver magician, but it was blocked by a layer of spherical shield. The silver magician's robe's defensive means were activated. With this delay, Silver Hook behind him raised his fishing rod and fiercely stabbed the draconid young man's back. The draconid young man was already prepared and suddenly opened his mouth. Talent spell, Dragon's Roar. The silver magician paused, and the spherical shield suddenly shattered. The dragon claw viciously stabbed towards the silver magician's head. At the same time, the fishing rod also stabbed into the draconid young man's back like a spear and pierced through his heart. The draconid young man's heart did not turn into a dragon's heart. In fact, even if it was a dragon's heart, it would also collapse after being pierced by a gold-grade fishing rod. At the critical moment, the draconid young man forcefully twisted his body. The fishing rod was diverted and brushed past the young man's heart, piercing through his body, and the tip of the rod broke through his chest. And in this time that he used his life to buy time, the draconid young man's dragon claw stabbed into the silver magician's head, killing a magician. Chapter 267. No! Seeing the draconid young man deal a fatal blow to his mage, Silver Hook let out an earth-shattering roar. He frantically infused his chi into the fishing rod. The chi passed through the fishing rod and was about to erupt near the draconid young man's heart. Innate spell, Dragon's Aura. At the critical moment of life and death, the draconid young man could no longer care too much and used an indiscriminate attack. The next moment, Dragon's Aura pressed down. The majesty of his bloodline origin intimidated Silver Hook. But it was only for a moment. The necklace on Silver Hook's neck shone brightly, allowing him to quickly recover. It's too late. At that moment, the draconid young man's intuition flashed through his mind. But he still tried his best to save himself. His arms and legs swung backwards and he violently shot out explosive chi. The 4 explosions propelled his body forward. In front of him was the silver mage with a hole in his head, who was about to fall. Poof! The next moment, he directly crashed into the mage's body. The mage's body returned to a pile of yellow mud. Shock rose in both the Draconid young man and Silverhook's hearts at the same time. Silverhook's originally frenzied infusion of chi also paused. The Draconid young man finally rushed forward enough to let the fishing rod that pierced through his chest leave his body. At that moment, the young man's emotions were very complicated. He used all his strength, not hesitating to gamble with his life, to kill the silver mage in front of him. But in the end, he only killed a clay puppet. His battle plan failed. But it was also because of this accident that Silverhook continued to be stunned after being disrupted by Dragon's aura. Then, the Draconid young man took advantage of this opening and escaped with his life. My clay puppet clone. At this moment, in the bottom cabin of Silverhook, the silver mage spat out a mouthful of blood. The clone he maintained was destroyed. This caused him to suffer a certain degree of backlash from the spell. However, at this moment, he was filled with joy. I didn't waste the huge price to cast this spell. At the same time, I also prepared a large amount of magic crystals in the clone. As expected, other than myself, no one else is trustworthy. The silver mage secretly cast this spell. The gold and silver brothers were all kept in the dark. To make it more realistic, he even put his magic ring on the clay puppet's finger. Cough, cough. The silver sorcerer coughed in pain and spat out a mouthful of blood. Then he took out 2 different potions from his pocket. A light red potion was used to heal his internal injuries. The other was a pale white color, which stabilized his mind that was suffering from the spell's backlash. After taking the medicine, his condition quickly stabilized. He let out a long sigh of relief, and a sense of pain rose in his heart. The clay figurine is destroyed, and the most unfortunate thing is that the wind elemental assassin was also killed. These 2 losses were too great, especially the latter. When he was still a magic apprentice, he had been nurturing the wind elemental. After investing a lot of resources into it, it gradually became a mage killer. Who would have thought that he would fall in this battle? In fact, it was very possible for a wind elemental to survive being swept by a dragon claw. But it just so happened that there was a very small probability that the magic crystal that sustained it was shattered. It had to be said that the Draconid youth's luck was exuberant. A casual sweep was enough to kill a wind elemental. If this wind elemental assassin had survived, it would have been very difficult to deal with. I will kill you all to make up for my losses. The silver sorcerer gritted his teeth, reached into his pocket, and took out a sacred emblem. This was the sacred emblem of the god of concealment, and it was engraved with the sacred runes of the god of concealment. The silver-ranked magician directly crushed the sacred emblem. His aura, which had been restrained to the extreme, completely disappeared. After completing this step, he then continued to cast magic. Generally speaking, casting spells would cause magic power to fluctuate. The more powerful the magic, the greater the fluctuations. But now, under the power of the god of concealment's sacred emblem, the silver sorcerer's magic fluctuations were completely restrained and did not leak out at all. Magic, summon wind elemental. 3 wind elementals appeared out of thin air above the ship of justice. These light green wind elementals had the upper body of a human and the lower body of a whirlwind. The 3 wind elementals swooped down and directly rushed into the captain's cabin at the stern of the ship. The silver sorcerer who had started his revenge still did not deal with the dragon youth, even though the latter had killed his wind elemental assassin and clay clone, causing the sorcerer to suffer heavy losses. The silver sorcerer's first target was still Tsang Su. When fighting, the sorcerer's priority was to kill the extraordinary. However, the 3 wind elementals did not find Tsang Su in the captain's cabin, as Tsang Su had already moved. The situation is not good. Zongo led Su Ma and the others, and jumped down from the little bird. stepping on the frozen sea, they were on their way to the Silver Hook. The dragon youth crashed into the Silver Hook's stern, and the half-beastman could not witness the battle between him and the Silver Hook. But the half-beastman sensed the dragon's aura of the dragon youth, and then saw the three wind elementals that appeared above the ship of justice. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not use dragon's aura that does not distinguish between friend and foe. He wanted to kill the silver sorcerer, but obviously failed. Not only did he use dragon's aura, but the silver sorcerer did not die. Those three wind elementals are the evidence. Zhong Ji's face was solemn. He sensed the severity of the battle. The dragon youth took the risk, but did not get rid of the silver sorcerer. The sorcerer was hiding in a corner, secretly casting spells. A silver sorcerer has too many tricks up his sleeve and is too threatening. Zhonggu immediately saw the dragon youth and the silver hook rushing out of the ship's stern and once again fighting on the deck. He is pinned down. Now I can only rely on myself. As Zhonggu was thinking, his footsteps suddenly stopped and his body stopped abruptly. Almost at the same time, an arrow brushed past his nose and hit the ice far away. Boom! The arrow exploded and countless ice shards burst out. Zhong Ji's eyes narrowed and fiercely turned his head, looking at the person who shot the arrow. It was a one-eyed elf, and his silver aura was genuine. It turned out that the little bird's full power shot had temporarily stranded the one-eyed elf's ship on the sea. The one-eyed elf was temporarily left behind. When the silver hook and the righteous ship both froze and stopped on the sea, the one-eyed elf decisively gave up on the ship and quickly took a small boat to provide support. He could not attack the dragon youth, Body in Gray, and the others. Because these people were fighting on the deck of the silver hook, enemies and allies were mixed together, and the one-eyed elf had to take care of the safety of his own people. But Zhong Ji's group was in the midst of charging, so after the one-eyed elf observed the battlefield, he focused his firepower on this group of people. With me here, don't even think about killing your way up. The one-eyed elf lightly jumped from the small boat and stepped on the ice. Zhonggu coldly snorted and once again charged towards the silver hook. The one-eyed elf was not surprised by the beastman's choice. He took a deep breath and drew his bow. Fighting technique, homing arrow. Fighting technique, arrow light. Fighting technique, splitting arrow. The one-eyed elf used 3 fighting techniques at the same time. He knocked an arrow on the bow, but this golden arrow did not shoot out. Instead, it kept splitting into arrow-like, faint yellow light. The light flew out, and the sound of whooshing could be heard. In the blink of an eye, it formed a rain of arrows. Each arrow of light was like a nimble fish, drawing an arc in the air, specifically targeting Zhonggu. Facing such an attack, Zhong Ji's heart could not help but tremble. He immediately gave up on the idea of attacking the silver hook and raised his two-handed greatsword in front of him, waiting for the attack. Boom, boom, boom. The arrows shot towards him, exploding continuously. Zhonggu resisted with all his might for a while, and then suddenly drilled out of the ice powder and dust and sprinted on the ice. He charged straight towards the one-eyed elf. The one-eyed elf had used 3 fighting techniques in a row, and now his chi was rapidly depleting, and at the same time he could not move. But the arrows of light were very nimble, flying in the air like a school of fish, actively chasing after the beastman. Zhonggu had no choice and could only continuously move in a zigzag pattern, trying to kill his way to the one-eyed elf. The one-eyed elf saw Zhonggu closing in, and the pressure in his heart increased. Zhong Ji's aura was ferocious, and his silver chi was flickering with a faint gold color, showing that he was at the peak of the silver rank. The one-eyed elf did not want to come into contact with the huge and sharp two-handed greatsword in Zhong Ji's hands. When Zhonggu reached a certain distance, the one-eyed elf finally stopped using his 3 fighting techniques, put away his bow, and jumped back. He was originally standing at the edge of the ice, and at this moment he jumped back into the normal water. But unexpectedly, when he touched the water with the tip of his foot, only ripples appeared on the surface of the water. It was as if he was standing on solid ground and could walk freely on the water. Zhong saw that something was wrong and immediately used his fighting technique. A large sword light slashed down from the sky, extending for more than 10 meters, but it still hit nothing and only created a huge splash. Zhong did not have a fighting technique that allowed him to walk on water without falling. This guy, the half-beast man, clenched his teeth, feeling helpless. The one-eyed elf was very cunning. He clearly had the ability to walk on water, but he purposely came in a small boat at the beginning, successfully causing Zhong to misjudge him. Now that he suddenly used this method, Zhong immediately fell into an awkward situation. If the half-beast man chased after him, it would be very difficult to establish an advantage on the surface of the water. And if he turned around and attacked the silver hook, the one-eyed elf would definitely continue to entangle him and once again stand on the ice. Whether he had other methods, Zhong did not know. But the half-beast man knew. As long as the one-eyed elf used the same trick again and used the 3 fighting techniques from before, he would not be able to charge onto the silver hook. Damn it! Facing a cunning opponent, Zhong felt a kind of sullen feeling of not being able to use his strength. What made him even more anxious was that the draconic youth was pinned down by the silver hook, and he could not break through. How would he deal with the opponent's silver mage? The one-eyed elf focused on pinning down Zhong, while the pirates led by Zhong successfully charged onto the silver hook. Because the deck was already in a mess and could not be organized, the pirates that rushed out from the little bird successfully climbed onto the side of the silver hook, and one after another climbed onto the deck. Damn it, I still managed to climb up. Suma's stomach was already filled with tears. He was trapped by the crowd. Originally, when he saw Zhong being stopped and entangled with the one-eyed elf, Suma was secretly happy. But the pirates around him were all shouting and continuing to attack the silver hook. Suma did not dare to be a deserter in front of everyone, and could only continue to charge. But he gradually fell behind the group. But the process of climbing was quite smooth, and he still stood on the deck of the silver hook. Kill! Die for me! Save! Save me! The pirates were fighting and entangling in front of Suma. Some were howling, some were on the verge of death, begging for help. Suma reserved 80% of his strength, leaving only 20% to fight the enemy. He leaned on the side of the ship, ensuring that he could retreat at any time. The pirates on the silver hook's side rushed at him, and he tried to dodge as much as possible, letting the pirates on his side exert more strength. The battle was anxious, and no one noticed that he was slacking off. However, good times did not last long, and more enemies came to him. This bronze fighter is a bit weak. First get rid of him, the easy one, and then solve the troublesome ones. Suma, he was furious, showing his strength, directly cutting off the necks of 2 ordinary pirates, and neatly repelling the attack of a bronze fighter. This guy's a bit strong. Come help me. First get rid of the troublesome one, leave the easy ones for later. Suma, on the deck of the silver hook, the situation of the Justice pirates was getting more and more critical. Because the other pirate ships of the silver hook were docked on the ice, constantly sending pirates for reinforcements. The difference in numbers between the 2 sides was huge. Finally, black iron level magic fluctuations appeared on the Justice ship. Song Su had no choice but to take action. The Draconid youth took away the elites on the ship, and the 3 wind elementals wreaked havoc on the deck, causing more and more damage. The silver magician was hidden, and the corner of his mouth curved into a sneer. He cast magic, and the target was Song Su. Song Su restrained himself and did not use necromancy, and only used magic scrolls to fight the enemy. Soon, he was at a disadvantage, and was chased by the wind elementals on the ship. More and more parts of the ice were broken, and Zhong was still unable to break through the one-eyed elf's defense. Time is limited. It seems that I have to... The orc's eyes suddenly focused, and looked at the place where the sea met the sky. The one-eyed elf immediately noticed the abnormality, and turned back to look at the ships in the distance. When the 2 sides were in a stalemate, a new ship suddenly appeared. "Ha ha! Our people have gathered." Ingo laughed loudly, but his laughter immediately stopped. Of the 3 pirate ships that came, 2 of them looked very similar, as if they were twins. The other ship had a strange appearance. The bow of the ship was trapezoidal. At this moment, the upper half of the bow rose, revealing the cannon. 3 cigar cannons poked out. Goldchin stood in front of the bow and shouted, "Dragon Suit Captain, we are here." Chapter 268. Oh, it's our reinforcements. It's Golden Chin and Sea Snake, allies of the Dragon Captain. Everyone, hold on, there's hope. The addition of 3 pirate ships greatly boosted the morale of the Justice Pirates. On the other hand, Silverhook's group was shaken. Silverhook's face was pale. How could it be? The one-eyed elf saw further and quickly found that the 3 ships that came had brand new scars. He suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. Sure enough, the next moment, Golden Chin took out a head and shouted, "Captain Silverhook, if you were waiting for the fleet to send you supplies, then you don't have to wait anymore." Ha ha ha. Silverhook's group heard this news and couldn't help but become slightly restless. The Gold and Silver brothers have been wandering in this sea for many days. Because of the large number of people, they relied on Treasure Island to send supplies regularly. So, when the vague hull of the pirate ship appeared on the horizon, Silverhook subconsciously thought that it was their transport fleet. In fact, their supply wave was today. Damn it, the transport fleet was destroyed by them. How did they know? Is this Justice Pirates a bait, and we've fallen into a trap? Silverhook's heart was full of doubt. My brother has been hiding in the cabin. Only I know him. If I lead the voyage alone, this trap can completely kill me. It seems that this Draconid is very insidious. Silverhook stared at the Draconid youth, and the latter's threat to Silverhook suddenly rose to another level. Did the captain ask for help from these 2? When did it happen? Was it in Magnetic Islands? Zhongji's heart was filled with surprise. The appearance of this reinforcement fully showed the military talent of the Draconid youth. Zhongji's guess was right. In Magnetic Islands, the Justice Pirates accidentally saved an old sailor and learned from him that the Silverhook Pirates were nearby. After grasping this information, the Draconid youth pondered for a long time and secretly contacted Golden Chin and Sea Snake. Now, his caution was fully rewarded. The Big Chin and Snake Lady, the Silver Sea Snake disguised as Snake Lady, quickly entered the battlefield. Most of the pirate ships in the Silverhook gang were near the ice. Most of them were docked on the ice, while a few other ships surrounded Little Bird on the normal sea surface. Gold Chin and the others came with the wind. Some of the Silverhook pirates hurriedly returned to their ships, some hesitated, and some frantically tried to defend themselves. Without a unified command, their army was in chaos. Of course, Goldjaw and the others would not give the enemy enough time to react. The distance between the 2 sides quickly shortened, and they soon entered the range of the cannons. Boom, boom, boom. After a few rounds of cannon fire, both sides were injured. The Silver Sea Snake cried out in pain. It removed its disguise and dived into the sea, launching a sneak attack from below. The Big Chin cigar cannons were extraordinarily powerful and had a great battle record. Several pirate ships were temporarily paralyzed by them. The distance between them narrowed once again. Gold Chin and the Sea Snake Lady attacked one after another, starting to slaughter the pirates on the enemy's ship. On Silverhook's pirate ship, including himself, there were only 4 silver-ranked experts. With the reinforcements of Golden Chin and Sea Snake, the number of silver powerhouses in the Justice Pirates has soared to 6. The number of experts at this level far surpassed that of the Silverhook Pirates. Just as the Draconid youth had a tough battle with Meathide and understood the principle after retreating, the biggest factor in war was the people. Without high-level combat power, Gold Chin and Sea Snake could do whatever they wanted. Silverhook's subordinates were very ferocious. Deserters rarely appeared, but no matter how thick the formation was, no matter how many pirates were on the deck, they would be easily taken down by Gold Chin and Sea Snake. especially the sea snake's silver-ranked magic. When it hit, there would be a large number of casualties. Hearing the miserable cries of his subordinates and seeing the pirate ships on his side losing their ability to resist, only able to spin on the surface of the sea, Silverhook was beyond furious. How many years had it been? The Silverhook pirate fleet had never suffered such losses. Most of the time, they played the role of the hunter. But now, they had become the prey in the mouth of others. All of you will die. All of you will die. When my brother returns, none of you will be able to escape. Silverhook roared. Sea Snake, find the opponent's silver-ranked mage. Gold Chin, don't fight. Come here and kill Silverhook first. The Draconid youth roared, urging with a commanding tone. Gold Chin and Sea Snake were unhappy, but they had no choice. After all, they had been captured by the Draconid youth and signed a contract. Both sides were spies of the Empire. Immediately, Gold Chin and Sea Snake entered the center of the battlefield. The reinforcements of the two silver-ranked experts turned the situation of the Justice Pirates around. This is bad. The silver-ranked mage in the Silver Hook pirate ship's cabin had a change of expression. He sensed the ripples of the water mirror magic. If this continues, we will be discovered sooner or later. Why is Goldhook not here yet? Actually, Goldhook had not been chasing after Rapid Flow for long. But the situation here was changing rapidly. The huge psychological pressure made the silver-ranked mage feel like every second was like a year. Flute felt like every second was like a year. Being chased by Goldhook personally and with half of the local forces behind him, Flute felt a huge pressure. It was as if an invisible mountain was pressing on his shoulders. I'm just a small silver-ranked. Why do you think so highly of me? As for Golden Hook's appreciation, Flute could only cry sorrowful tears in his heart. At this time, he was controlling the rudder while playing his piccolo. The sound of the flute was crisp and melodious. Together with his special fighting technique, it had a strong urinating effect. It was the Bard Flute's famous unique skill, urine flow song. Goldhook's face was ugly. When a urine flow song entered his ears, it made him want to pee. But he was a gold-ranked warrior. He could still resist the song. The others were different. Many pirates had already started to pee in public. At first, most of them chose to pee on the side of the ship. But soon, these people fell into the sea. The urinating desire produced by the urine flow song was just a facade. The real power was that the song could affect the energy and magic in the body of the listener, causing them to become chaotic. And the most seriously affected parts of the body were the bladder and the urethra. When peeing, the pirate's energy would become chaotic, causing internal injuries. Some of them would become dizzy. Coupled with the speed of the ship and the waves hitting the ship, it was not surprising that the pirates would fall into the sea. Seeing their companions fall into the water, the other pirates started to pee away from the side of the ship. Soon, the smell of urine rose from the pirate ship within the song's range. Even the rapids was the same. The urine flow song did not differentiate between friend and foe. But fortunately, as Flute's subordinates, they were more used to it than Goldhook's men. While controlling the ship, they would naturally pee on their pants. Almost every one of them had 2 pairs of earplugs. If they lost them in the chaos, they would use the backup. In order to survive, Flute used the urine flow song with all his might, pushing the power of his unique skill to the highest level in his life. Golden Hook wasn't greatly affected, but the others were. Gold Hook could not interfere with the sailing of a ship. Even if he could help, his help would be limited by himself. Therefore, the pirate ship led by Gold Hook kept following behind the rapids. During the chase, Gold Hook did make a move. But although the fishing boat's hook had a wide range, it did not hit the rapids. First of all, the rapids had a magic device, and with Flute's skillful steering skills, it could change its direction flexibly. Second, the fishing boat's hook's firing speed was not fast, giving Flute enough time to dodge. Although Golden Hook was chasing after the torrent, he had been keeping an eye on the entire battle. The reinforcements of Gold Chin and Sea Snake made him frown slightly. The resistance and strength of the Justice Pirates repeatedly exceeded his expectations. He finally stopped holding back and really moved. Gold Do Chi surged on his body, and the flying Do Chi was displayed again, allowing him to cross the sea, rise into the sky, and then swoop down on the rapids. The rapids could only move horizontally on the sea, and Goldhook had the advantage of air combat and was more flexible. Boom! Goldhook smoothly landed on the deck of the rapids, fighting alone. Flute roared and led the pirates to besiege him. Goldhook easily repelled Flute, facing the pirates coming from all directions, and snorted, "It's useless no matter how many of you come." The next moment, Gold Do Chi gushed out, and the Do Chi was displayed, almost instantly clearing the rapids. The deck of the rapids was originally crowded with people, and in the blink of an eye, only Flute was left. The masts, sails, rigging, and other things of the rapids were broken under the impact of the Do Chi and flew out of the ship. The entire rapids was like a hurricane, becoming smooth and smooth. Flute gritted his teeth, jumped back, and jumped into the water. Goldhook was a beat slower, and by the time he reacted, Flute had already entered the water. Golden Hook coldly snorted and used a new Do skill. Do Chi, life-hanging hook. He swung the fishing rod, and the fishing line flew out, and the hook quickly caught up with Flute, who was desperately diving in the water. The hook shone faintly and gently hooked the back of Flute's head. The next moment, Flute's whole body was weak, and his strength suddenly disappeared. His eyes turned white, and there was no wound on the back of his head, but he was dead. After killing Flute, Goldhook flew back to his pirate ship and led the team back to the front of the battlefield. A dash, a scream, and Goldhook, who had just reached the ice surface, had a terrible expression. He could tell that this was the final cry of his silver-ranked magician. With the advantage of numbers, the young Draconid and Zhonggu worked together, and with the help of the Sea Snake Girl, they finally managed to find the enemy mage before Goldhook returned to help, and truly eliminated him. Very good, righteous pirates. You will now receive the cruelest and most terrifying punishment in your life. Goldhook's face was cold, and his whole body was surrounded by Gold Do Chi, as if the killing intent in his chest was boiling. Zhonggu, Goldhook, and the others all had serious expressions. Silver Hook breathed a sigh of relief. The young Draconid suddenly laughed out loud. "Ha ha! Goldhook, we have been waiting for you for a long time. You still rush back to die." The situation was at its most critical moment, but the young captain showed extraordinary confidence. Facing a gold rank, where did his confidence come from? Chapter 269. The righteous pirates were invigorated. Regardless of whether the dragon suit captain was bluffing or had some trump card up his sleeve, the fact that he had such a high-spirited attitude in the face of a gold-ranked enemy was inspiring. There was a saying in the military books of the Eastern Empire: "The general is the courage of the army." The Draconid youth took a deep breath, and his explosive combat aura surged again, forming an explosion that propelled him toward Hook. Fearless. Hook raised an eyebrow, and seeing the Draconid youth's attacking posture, he laughed in anger. Combat technique, wine-brewing fist. The Draconid youth's pupils shrank. Hook's fist disappeared from the youth's vision in an instant. The next moment, the Draconid youth was hit in the chest by a powerful force, and his entire body flew backward at a faster speed than before, crashing into the main mast of the Silver Hook with a bang. The mast groaned and was almost broken by the Draconid youth. The righteous pirates were stunned. The pirates on Hook's side cheered. This was the majesty of a gold-ranked fighter. But the Draconid youth quickly straightened his body, reorganized himself, and charged toward Hook again. Hook's eyelids twitched, and he was surprised. The combat technique he had used before seemed to be improvised, but he had been accumulating power on his way back. My wine-brewing fist is a wonderful combat technique I learned from the Pandaren tribe in the south of the Empire, and the longer it accumulates power, the more powerful it becomes, even to the extent of harming oneself. Most silver-rank fighters can't get up after taking that punch. This guy, he's clearly not at the peak of silver-ranked. Hook was very clear about the power of his attack, but the Draconid youth's physical strength surprised him. It was not that Hook had never fought a Draconid before, but this Draconid youth before him was clearly very different from the ones he had encountered before. The Draconid youth kept charging and retreating. Hook stood where he was, his body tall and straight, like the peak of a mountain. No matter how the Draconid youth attacked, he did not move. On the other hand, the Draconid youth's injuries were getting worse, and his breathing was getting worse, and his body was covered in blood. The battle between the two drew the attention of the entire battlefield. The outcome of their battle would determine the final outcome of this battle. Hook looked calm, but in fact, he was getting more and more shocked. His sharp eyes focused on the young Draconid's wound. He discovered that the young Draconid's injuries were rapidly healing. What kind of bloodline is this? The wariness in Ingo's heart grew stronger as he watched the Draconid youth lunge again and again. I've clearly pierced through his chest and back, and yet he's still so fierce even under my brother's attacks. It's my turn. Golden Hook's voice suddenly sank as he gave up on defense and switched to offense. Battle skill, Crescent Moonhook. He swung his weapon fishing rod and condensed his combat energy at the end of the fishing line, forming a huge hook. The combat aura hook was extremely sharp. It directly cut the pirate in half and cut off the auxiliary mast. It sliced through the thick sail as if it was nothing. The Draconian youth retreated again and again. His dragon scales were unable to withstand such an attack. At the critical moment, Zongu and a body in gray used their fighting skills to support the captain. The three of them fought fiercely against Golden Hook, sharing the pressure together and successfully stabilizing their position. As for Ingo, One-Eyed Elf, and the Silver Warrior with the blade, they naturally would not sit still and continue to fight. Some of them tried to attack the Sea Snake Woman, while others continued to restrain Zongu and the others. Golden Hook's reinforcements did not have the effect of ending the battle. The battle was still in a stalemate. Both sides continued to fight. Ingo was unfortunately reduced to the main battlefield. The entire ship was constantly groaning. The Silver Warriors and above were undoubtedly the bright stars of the battlefield. Even a bronze warrior like Suma had to be careful. Suma's face was covered in dust. He rolled on the deck and hid behind two wooden barrels. Suma panted with difficulty. We can't continue fighting. I used to think that Lion Flag was a battle maniac, but I didn't expect the dragon captain to be even worse than him. He's actually a madman, daring to attack Golden Hook. This bronze thief was trembling with fear and did not have high hopes for the Draconid youth. Even if they win in the end, I'm afraid I won't be able to live until then. Being carried onto the deck, that's ridiculous. Right now, no one will pay attention to me. I have to quickly retreat. Bang! A gunshot rang out. A bronze pirate threw away the flintlock in his hand and ran towards Suma with large strides. So you were here? The bronze pirate roared, his hair standing on end. Suma's mouth was filled with bitterness. He did not know why, but this bronze warrior had his eyes on him. But this is also a chance. Suma blocked a few attacks and took the brunt of it. He directly rolled down the side of the ship and fell onto the ice. The bronze pirate immediately looked down and saw Suma's corpse in a pool of blood. Humph! Who told you to look like my love rival when I was young? The bronze pirate was pleased with himself. He turned around and went back to fight again. Suma stealthily opened his eyes and clearly saw that the bronze pirate had left. Very good. His heart was roused. He immediately stood up and covered his stomach with his hand. He pretended to be heavily injured and quickly left Ingo. His departure did not attract anyone's attention. The Silver Warriors and Golden Hook on Ingo were busy fighting and had no time to care about anything else. Battle technique. Great sword light. Zongu roared. He raised his arms and released a sword light that was as tall as a person. It slashed towards Ingo. Ingo dodged continuously. The sword light chased even faster. But luckily, by retreating, he managed to gain some time to use his battle technique. Battle technique. Curved hook. The fishing line circled in front of him, forming a translucent silver hook. The sword light struck the hook and was pulled by the hook. It slid down and flew out of Ingo. What's that sound? Suma's ears trembled. He immediately turned his head and saw the great sword light flying towards him. Suma immediately dodged. Bang! The sword light destroyed a large portion of the ice. Although Suma was not hit, he was still affected by the shockwave. He flew out like a sack and started vomiting blood in midair. Plop! The mustard horse fell onto the hard ice and slid for a distance. He was dizzy and felt pain all over his body. But he rejoiced in his heart. Luckily, I ran away. Otherwise, I would have been in a worse state on the ship. How can you participate in this kind of battle? Do you want to die? Suma stood up and continued to run on the ice. But this time, he did not need to pretend that he was injured, because he was really injured. Battle technique, gray fog wave. His body was covered in gray. The hair on his body instantly shrunk and released a gray fog. The gray fog formed a fan and pushed forward. The silver warrior who fought with Suma was already injured. He was half kneeling on the ground and could not use his battle technique to fight back. He gritted his teeth and grabbed his necklace and broke it. The necklace was strung with countless thin metal pieces. After these metal pieces were freed from the rope, they immediately expanded and formed countless small shields. The shields spun continuously, destroying the gray fog that was attacking them. Suma wanted to continue attacking, but was stopped by the arrows of the one-eyed spirit. Just as the silver warrior was about to let out a sigh of relief, the golden chin charged over with a huge shield. Bang! The silver warrior was sent flying. The small shields around him were also scattered. One of them flew far away and bounced a few times on the ice before falling at Suma's feet. What is that? It seems to be an alchemy item? Suma was puzzled. He saw the small shield float up and then quickly spin. Suma was the only one around the small shield. It immediately charged at him. Suma was shocked. He frantically moved his legs, tried to distance himself from the small shield. The small shield was sometimes repelled by Suma's dagger or battle technique. Sometimes it would catch up and cut open wounds on the bronze thief's body. Suma ran while spurting blood. He was extremely depressed. Finally, he became ruthless and used all his strength to destroy the small shield that was chasing after him. Oh no, I lost too much blood. Suma felt his eyes darken. I have to leave quickly. The farther I am from the battlefield, the better. Suma gritted his teeth and got closer to the little bird. He didn't choose the righteous. Firstly, the righteous was the dragon server's flagship. He couldn't drive it away. Secondly, the righteous was like the silver hook. It was temporarily sealed in ice and couldn't move. Come on, I'm going to succeed. Suma's eyes flickered with hope as he got closer and closer to the little bird. But in the next moment, the little bird crashed into the ice. Many pirates rushed down from the little bird. Kill. Support the captain. Killing one is enough. Killing two is worth it. Suma was shocked. These idiots. He cursed in his heart. The crowd rushed over. Many pirates brushed past him. Baya was among them. He saw Suma and said, "Senior, you're seriously injured. Don't go to the little bird. It's about to sink. We're all coming down." Suma, the bronze thief, gritted his teeth. His expression was very complicated. There was anger, hatred, unwillingness, despair, and so on. Chapter 270. As an ordinary ship, it was already quite a miracle for Little Bird to be able to last so long in this naval battle. But now it was sinking. The pirates and the Little Bird all shouted loudly, raising the swords and muskets in their hands. Under the lead of Goblin Three Blades, they charged toward the Silver Hook in a grand formation. Suma and Baya stood amidst the surging crowd. "Senior, take care of yourself." Baya gave his medicine to Suma and was about to charge towards the front lines. But the next moment, Suma came back to his senses and grabbed Baya's arm. "Don't follow them. Let's go back to the justice." "No." Baya had a resolute expression. "I want to fight." Suma had a headache. "You're not even bronze. You'll be courting death if you go. Are you stronger than me? Look at my injuries." But Baya's gaze was still resolute. Suma changed the topic. "If you want to contribute and help your companions, there's no need to sacrifice yourself. Listen to me. Let's go to the justice. Look, the little bird has sunk, and the rapids has escaped. We only have the justice left. There are enemies on the justice as well. If we want to help our companions, we have to look at the bigger picture. With our fighting ability, we won't be able to contribute much if we go to the Silver Hook. But the justice is different. Do you understand? Bai was convinced by his words. As expected of you, Senior. Suma's mouth twitched. He wanted to laugh, but it affected his wounds. He sighed bitterly and pulled Baya. Let's go back to the justice. Die. The golden hook waved the fishing rod in his hand. The golden battle skill exploded, aiming for Zhong Ji's life. Danger! The draconian youth shouted, blocking in front of Zhong Ge. Asterisk boom. Asterisk the draconian youth suffered a heavy blow and was blasted off the deck, shooting backwards like a cannonball. He crashed into countless pirates and crashed into the Silver Hook's stern. He went through the captain's cabin and fell into the sea. At the critical moment, the draconid youth subconsciously reached out and luckily grabbed the railing of the balcony at the back of the ship. He exerted strength in his arms and dragged his body up to the platform at the stern of the ship. The pain made him unable to stand up. For a moment, he could only kneel on the wooden plank, curl up into a ball, and vomit blood. He lowered his head, and his eyes lost focus. For a moment, his vision went dark, and he thought he was going to die. He had lost his sense of time. It had only been a few breaths, but it felt as long as a few years to him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. His bellows, like panting, was like a life struggling on the edge of a cliff, gradually awakening his consciousness. Fight! The battle is still going on. His memory also recovered. The draconid youth hurriedly stood up, but his feet tilted and he almost fell down again. He held onto the door frame of the captain's cabin that led to the balcony and looked down at his chest. His chest had caved in to a terrifying degree, and who knew how many of his ribs were broken. His heart was still beating with difficulty. Looking at his entire body, there was almost no part of him that was intact. Almost all of his dragon scales had been shattered. The draconid youth could transform into a draconid with dragon scales all over his body through the blood core. In essence, this was a transformation of life form. If he was injured in this form, when he reverted to human form, his injuries would still exist, and his life would be in danger because the physique of a human was not as good as a draconid's. On the other hand, he could not use the blood core to heal himself, because even if he reverted to human form and then transformed into a draconid, his injuries would not be reduced at all. The draconid youth took out a potion from a pocket near his belt. This was a healing potion. The potion was bright red and gave off a faint glow. The youth drank the potion in one gulp. The greatest advantage of a magic potion was that it took effect quickly. After a few breaths, the draconid youth regained his mobility. After a few more breaths, the injuries on his chest quickly recovered, but there was still a small dent. The draconid youth shouted and charged back. Captain! Seeing the draconid youth rejoin the battle, the others were reassured. You're still alive. Golden Hook's gaze was serious. After taking a direct hit from his golden battle technique, the draconid youth regained his vigor after a while. This level of defense and recovery surprised Golden Hook once again. Since the start of the battle, the draconid youth had taken the initiative to take on Golden Hook's attacks. The youth was truly fighting with his life on the line. I like to see how many of my moves you can take. Golden Hook unleashed his battle technique again. The draconid youth was fearless and immediately charged at him. Puffed. Golden Hook's aura suddenly dissipated, and his battle technique stopped. He took a step back and spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone was shocked by this sudden change, because no one had attacked Golden Hook just now. What's going on? The sea snake lady almost thought that her eyes were playing tricks on her. The eyes of Mango, covered in gray, and the others exploded with light. The information provided by the Empire was indeed correct. Golden Hook failed to reach the saint level in his early years and has injuries on his body. He just did them well. Now that I think about it, if he was in perfect condition, shouldn't he have attacked earlier? But at the start of the battle, he had been guarding Silver Hook. It seemed like he was protecting the mages on his side, but in reality, he was a huge threat. Golden Hook's blood boosted the morale of the Justice Pirates. Brother. Silver Hook ran to Golden Hook's side with a worried expression. He knew that Golden Hook's injuries were serious, and yet they had encountered the Justice Pirates. It would have been fine if it was a normal pirate group, but there were many freaks in this pirate group. Half-Beast Man, Rat Man, and most importantly, the Draconid. He was not at the peak of silver rank, nor did he have any gold-grade protective equipment, but he was able to block Golden Hook's gold-grade battle technique multiple times. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Silver Hook would not have believed it. Brother, let me share some of your burden. Silver Hook supported Golden Hook. Golden Hook nodded and sighed. All right, after this battle, I can no longer hide my injuries. Let's kill all these people who have caused trouble for us to vent my anger. Golden Hook was clearly injured, but his tone was firm and filled with killing intent. Be careful. The Draconid youth was alarmed. In the next moment, Golden Hook and Silver Hook stood side by side and placed their palms on each other's shoulders. Combined battle technique. Heart Hook. The brothers' battle chi surged and mixed together as they infused it into their fishing rods. They swung their fishing rods, and the fishing line spun. Balls of battle chi flew out from the end of the line. These balls of battle chi condensed into the shape of fish hooks and were extremely agile. Like swimming fish, they swam towards the Justice Pirates. Everyone blocked them carefully and found that these balls of battle chi were very agile. They could freely change their speed and direction in midair. Once they were hit by the fish hooks, they would turn into a sharp and tricky ball of battle chi and follow the body, directly attacking the heart and dealing a fatal blow. For a moment, everyone was in a mess. Even the Draconid youth was the same. His mutation was not complete. In fact, he had absorbed the Flame Dragon King's bloodline. If he completely mutated, he would become a Flame Dragon. Just like before, when he absorbed the Spear Scorpion's bloodline, when the bloodline was complete, he would become a Spear Scorpion. The Draconid youth's heart was not a dragon's heart. The battle chi in his palms continued to explode, but he still got hit by a few fish hooks. The Draconid youth's face was solemn. He controlled his battle chi to resist the attacks in his body while dealing with the fish hooks outside his body. Golden Hook and Silver Hook stood on the deck and kept swinging their fishing rods. Every time, they could throw out more than a dozen fish hooks. The speed of production greatly exceeded the speed of consumption. Magic Scroll, Devouring Demon Hummingbird. On the Snake Lady, the Sea Snake Lady saw that the situation was not good and quickly tore a summoning scroll. The scroll came into effect and summoned a large group of demonic beast hummingbirds. Go deal with those flying fish hooks. The Sea Snake Lady communicated with the group of hummingbirds. The hummingbirds flew and soon came to the sky above the Silver Hook. They were extremely fast and attacked the fish hooks one by one. The fish hooks were inanimate objects. Although they were agile, they relied on Golden Hook and Silver Hook's spiritual control. On the other hand, the devouring demon hummingbirds were naturally very sensitive to targets with magic and had powerful hunting abilities. The fishhooks were quickly pecked by the hummingbirds. After they were defeated, the scattered battle chi became food for the hummingbirds. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.